welcome everyone to the Monday, June the 7th Committee of the Whole. I guess it's going to take me a while to get used to saying that. Community Development Committee meeting. It's a hybrid meeting of a group indoors in chamber, and we have several participants online that'll be joining us via Zoom, and I will welcome you as your turn to speak comes up. So thank you for attending today. Before I begin and I call the meeting to order, one thing that I would just like to make a comment about, I'm sure most people have noticed that the flags in the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal have been at half-mast. I just wanted to take a moment to recognize the tragedy of the recently uncovered 215 children's graves at the Kamloops Residential School. Canada certainly now finds itself in a position where it needs to take a look at its past and to continue having a very important and difficult discussion about that. And with that, I will call the meeting to order. And the first item of business is the approval of the agenda as it's presented. So if somebody can move and somebody can second, moved by Councillor Cameron, seconded by Chris Ward, all in favor?
Aye.
Good. The next item on our agenda is disclosure of any pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof. Does anyone have any declarations tonight? And there's Greg. I just noticed that Greg has joined us. Greg, we're at disclosure of pecuniary interest. Any disclosures? None? Good. All right, so moving on to number 4, which would be business arising from the previous committee meeting minutes, if anyone has any.
None by me.
Chris, Hugh, Mayor?
None here.
John, Connor, Greg? Nothing? Good. All right, there we go. It's moving on much quicker, Wendy, than we anticipated. So on to delegations and presentations. And for that, I would like to take the opportunity to welcome Tariq and Shabazz to the Committee of the Whole, Community Development Committee meeting. You're going to make a presentation on the lands at Frederick Street West. Welcome, Tariq and Shabazz.
Good afternoon. I'm Tariq.
Tariq, we're having a little bit of difficulty with the sound at the moment. We're going to make an attempt to turn it up. So if you can keep speaking, that would be great.
Okay.
That's better. We're good?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Welcome, Tariq. I just want to first, before you begin, with your presentation, we like to try to keep it to 10 minutes. And then the max, 10 minutes max, and then the committee will maybe possibly ask, a round of questions, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, you can begin now, Tariq. Welcome.
So good afternoon, and thanks everybody that you gave us a chance to speak. Can I share my documents?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so this is a letter which I sent to the council. So our basic request is the exclusion of these 2 pins which are listed in the subject line from the proposed industrial plan. And I will show next where the location of these 2 blocks are. You see this industrial plan proposed. And from that part, these two blocks, which have these pins which are listed on in the letter, that we want to keep for our personal use. And we request to the council that exclude these two pins from the proposed industrial plan and keep its zoning as is for residential rural. Thank you. This is my request, and if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Tariq. Okay, so let's open, let's open for discussion and for comments first.
Yes,
Mr. Cameron?
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have, what I'm looking at is on page, I guess it's page 9, the two yellow highlighted areas. Is that the two pieces that we're talking about?
Right. Those are two pins. One is about 4 acre and the other one is about 2 acre.
Okay.
And those are facing to the Frederick West.
Yeah, Shabazz here, please. So these are the two pieces which are facing Frederick Street,
Yes, I see that.
and they have homes opposite to this piece of land too. So
That's all I have.
Councilor
At the moment,
Donovan?
yes.
Am I good to go ahead?
Oh, yeah, sorry,
Sorry.
yeah.
You're saying you're using this for personal. Do you want this as two residential homes or residential lots to be separate? Is that your goal, is to put two homes up?
The lots already exist.
They exist?
Yeah.
So they're asking for residential use?
Yes, but it's zoned for industrial park, future expansion.
Is that what they're using? They have
You
two
can
lots?
ask them.
You have two lots available here, and you said you want to use them personal.
Right.
Is that your intentions of putting two homes up on them?
Yes.
so we have in all about 66 acres piece of land in there.
Yeah.
And we are asking the council just for these two pins basically, which total up to 6 acres, to take it out of that proposed industrial land. We don't have any issues with the rest of the land. So
Chris?
Not yet.
Connor?
Is that let's say inside corner? Is that inside corner of the industrial park area not for a future angle of the railroad? Would that not be the layout that would be used for a rail line going northbound and then turning east onto the main track?
There must be an easement already mentioned on the plan.
Yeah, but if the industrial park were to need a turn in the railroad, doesn't it fall right into that yellow portion? Or am I off laterally? I haven't loaded it on my laptop yet, so maybe I should get a piece of paper.
I don't understand the question.
I'll yield my time for now.
Councilor Hunter?
Shabazz, did you understand?
no, I didn't get it basically. So the railway track is already passing in there. So didn't get it. What do you mean?
Yeah, we'll move on until Connor gathers his thoughts, and he'll come back with maybe a different question or a question that relates back later on. Councilor Hunt?
Okay.
Through the chair to you, and still on the same question that Councillor Dilbaugh asked you about these two lots. You're saying you want them for personal use. are your intent to immediately build 2 residential houses, 1 in each one of these lots? Is that the intent?
That is the current intention. Yes, that is correct.
And the rest of the land, what's your intent for the rest of the land that you bought?
The rest of the land is okay, basically. It is in the industrial park, future industrial park, and it can stay in there.
So I know you're saying it can stay in industrial, but what's your intent for the use of it?
We just got it basically, but intention is, of course, doing some business in there. So we had a discussion with the engineering team at 4 o'clock today, and we are still coming up with basically what is going to be the best use of this land. So,
You are intending to use it for industrial use?
yeah.
Okay.
Can I go back to Connor, Mr. Mayor, or would you prefer first?
No, go ahead.
Connor?
Yeah, so I've cross-referenced these maps which don't show the rail line going north from the ethanol plant with Google Maps. And I feel that the site triangle and the physical track triangle, if the industrial park required a north and east bound rail line, short line, it would cut into that property that you're looking to sever, or you're looking to use as residential. I think those were originally included in the industrial park lands for that purpose, or at least should stay for that purpose as industrial land if the capacity of either the ethanol plant or the port or any other rail inbound or outbound needs come up. I think that's why it's more of a trapezoid, or there's extra squares, I think, for that inside curve of a rail line. Could you bring up Google Maps of that spot, please, and mark it with your mouse? On the TV, please.
Okay.
So just from what I'm seeing currently, that spot is a vacant field. Right south of the rail line. And I think if more homes went in that were such big lots that you could put a subdivision, I think it would cut down future rail expansion from minimum distance separations.
I'm looking at the same Google Earth, I think, that you are, and the ethanol plant appears to have like their spur line that goes to the west. It sort of does a semicircle and hooks that line and goes to the west. You're suggesting that one may come off there and go to the east?
Well, if it needed to, I think the lot.
Can everybody see the map?
Yeah, there's the map there. The middle of it is the fish hook that I'm speaking of.
Mm-hmm. So I think we should allow for that to go the other direction, mirrored if needed.
So can you see the map?
Yeah, yes, we can.
So here is the green field, and that is the railway track CN.
Yep.
And we are talking about this corner. This basically this block.
Right across.
So this is pretty far from even if there is a curve need, like even if there is a need to take the train to the other side, and if you see the current trajectory of the train that is already laid, it doesn't look like that particular piece of land will be required.
I don't know. Some of these trains are kilometers long now. And
For sure, but there is already an existing trajectory on the other side. That piece is a railway track too. So
we want the industrial park to not be limited in any way. And we want 50 years worth of capacity for future expansion.
So what other option, maybe we can leave this 2-acre one, which is at the corner of the rail, and just allow us the 4-acre part. Will that work?
Is your future use of the industrial lands that you purchased going to require rail access?
We don't have any plan to develop personally because we are not a big investor. We bought this land if somebody else wants to establish any industry.
I think the township wants to keep it open for rail capacity.
That I'm saying, if you want to keep for track, so you can take this in the industrial, the 2-acre just beside the railway track, and spare this 4-acre block.
What Tariq is saying, that 2 acres should be good enough, even if in future a train has to be laid out. First of all, as he said, even if the train is longer, you see the trajectory, it's not going to reach in there. But what Tariq is saying, even if you need that piece, you can keep the 2 acres, which is quite a big piece of land, and then the other 4 acres you can allow us to use personally. So.
But you're going to have a 4-acre home?
2 homes. We are 2 families basically in the business, and we want to have 2 homes to build.
I'd like to hear other people's thoughts.
Councilor Harris-Gone, yes. And so, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you tonight?
Good.
So far, so good.
Now, Tariq,
Yeah.
you certainly know that before you purchased that piece of property, I had many conversations with your agent, Sarah Hunter. You realize that, do you not?
Yes.
Yes, and there were several occasions on which you had asked Sarah Hunter for information from our township as to what our intentions were with regard to this 66 acres.
No, definitely we understand what your proposed plan is, and we agree that it will stay 99% in the proposed industrial plan. We are just requesting that piece which is on the west side of Frederick to build our homes. That's it.
Now, what would motivate us? We've come to the decision quite some time ago that land on the west side of Frederick Street and also north of the CNR would be the future industrial park expansion area. And that is included on our official plan. Now, what would motivate us to change it from an expansion area for our industrial park to a residential? Why would we be motivated to do that?
No,
What would
the reasons we listed in our letter,
I beg your pardon?
we have listed a couple of reasons why we are requesting this, not only to build the houses for ourselves, but there are a couple of other concerns to the neighbors.
No, the point is we have no reason to change that to a residential, to rezone that to residential area.
Why not?
If you were looking for
What we are
residential
doing,
area,
why not? They are valid reasons.
excuse me, I'm speaking. If you were looking for a residential area, your agent identified several areas in the township where there were residential lots available. Your agent also told you that the township was attempting to prohibit any development on the west side of Frederick Street. Any additional development on the west side, any additional residential development on the west side of Frederick Street. You knew all of those things before you bought this land. Why would we change our mind now?
No, as Tarek said, we have mentioned it already in the letter. Primarily, is there any technical reason? Basically, are you planning on using this Frederick Street for industrial purposes too? Like, are you going to be allowing industrial traffic on this road?
We're going to try to prevent industrial traffic on Frederick Street. We're going to try to prevent that, but we have no assurances that that will happen. And we're also going to try to prevent additional development, residential development, further north on Frederick Street. Now, whether we take the steps to do that or not, but we've certainly signaled that to our council and to our planner.
And what are you going to be saying to the people who are already living on, like?
They're
they
there.
are, yeah, and they don't like basically having an industrial land in front of their homes. We had discussions with them too. So
yes, and things change, and there are several other examples, or at least two other examples in the township where the town actually purchased residential land from the residential owners and destroyed the homes because they were incompatible use with the surrounding industrial area. There's at least three of those occasions.
So is town planning on doing the same thing for this particular instance too?
That was signaled to you.
Well, I was just asking, is the intention because there is a home after railway track 2 in there? So is town planning on basically buying that home and destroying it? Or?
There are no residential homes in that area where you are. There's one about halfway between the last house on Frederick Street, on the west side of Frederick Street. There's one old frame house between there and where you're looking on the map there.
Mm-hmm.
One which will eventually be a non-conforming use.
So are you talking about the, Tarek, can you move your cursor to the place where the existing home is right now?
Yeah,
Right.
there is one here after the track and there is one at the end of the street.
Oh, yeah, that's on the other side. That's on north of the railroad track. We're not talking about north of the railroad track. We're talking about south of the railroad track.
But those houses are coming in the proposed plan too.
I can't understand what he's saying.
Those houses come under the proposed plan too.
Yes, they do. They will eventually be non-conforming because they'll be in an industrial park. I mean, we've signaled very clearly in our official plan what we intend to do with that land.
So there are two houses, one in this block and one here, which are coming under the proposed industrial plan.
And also opposite to the, and also there are homes opposite to the piece of land that we are asking the council to take out.
These three houses.
More or you?
No, I'm finished.
Okay, so we'll do a quick second round, Chris.
No, that was.
Oh, sorry, Greg. Hold on, I missed Greg. Greg? Not Greg Kenny, Greg.
Through the chair, I'd ask, when was the land purchased?
Sorry,
When did you purchase the land?
it was in March.
So 3 months ago?
Yeah,
And you knew 3 months ago that it was zoned industrial?
no, it was proposed industrial. There is no status change when
So,
we,
okay, so you knew at the time of your purchase that it was proposed industrial.
right,
And so you still went through with the purchase, knowing that it was proposed industrial.
right.
And at the time that you purchased it, was your intent to put 2 personal homes on that property?
Yes, that's what we planned.
Even though, as the mayor had previously stated, your realtor had been informed that it was proposed industrial.
Yeah, we understood, and that's why we come back and requesting the township, if possible, to leave those 2 pins for us.
Okay, I have no further questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
So before I go to the second round, I just want to throw this thought out. It makes a bit of sense, I think. I'm hearing that from definitely around the table, at least I think there's definitely some concerns with respect to losing part of the future industrial expansion area. Would the committee consider recommending that staff bring a report possibly to the next committee as per Tariq and his partners, Shabazz, his request for, sorry, Shabazz, I forgot your name, for their request. So have staff prepare a report to us how it relates back to their request.
Well, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
With all due respect, I know the amount of time that I spent with their agent, and I know the amount of time that Wendy spent with their agent. And I know the efforts that were made to make it very, very clear that this land was destined for industrial park expansion area. I just think it would be unfair of us to ask Wendy now to prepare a report on why we shouldn't rezone that to residential. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about a rezoning after we have just completed an official plan. We're talking now about taking 2 lots and rezoning them to residential. What would be our motivation to do that?
No,
And why would our staff give us a report that is contradictory to what we entered into, what, a year, 15 months ago? I think it would be a total waste of staff time and unfair to staff.
Fair points. So I've got you marked as a no. Councillor Hunter?
I don't see.
We understand that this is.
Tariq, just hold. We're having a conversation. If there are questions directed towards you, we will ask them. The committee is going to have the discussion among ourselves.
Okay,
We'll ask if there's a question, okay?
I don't really see the point. We spent 3 years going over this official plan and deciding what territory we wanted to mark out. We had concerns with some of the houses that were already built on Frederick Street there with the expansion. I don't really think it's behoves us to add 2 more to worry about.
Okay. Mark is no too. Connor?
To me, this looks and feels like the land speculation that would be incoming once our township got on the radar of large corporations from around the economic regions. And I don't think it's a good long-term solution to change after you knew going in. But I wouldn't be against a small lot for a residence or 2 at the road that are similar in size and shape to other residences within a maximum, because we don't, so we would have, the lot would have to be split probably. I can't load the map that shows the lots there.
So what I'm asking of the committee is to possibly refer this back to staff to prepare a report based on their request.
So
I'm asking
based on
you really
request is a no.
for a yes or for a no. You've answered both ways. You've answered yes and you've answered no. So
For the request brought, I'm a no, but.
No, I'm asking for this committee to refer the matter back to staff to prepare a report to bring back to us next committee with a recommendation based on their request. So
I don't think it needs to be.
want me to come back to you?
Well, that's a catch-22.
No, I mean, to the mayor's point, the land, we've been planning this as industrial all along. There's lots of other places around the township if you wanted a residential property. No, I don't think we need to do any more analysis on it.
Okay, Steve?
No.
You?
No.
I'm a no. Connor? No. So that's.
Mr. Chair. Greg votes no as well, Mr. Chair.
Sorry, Greg, I keep forgetting you. Okay.
Okay, I vote no.
So I need a little help from staff on where and how to proceed at this point. I don't think anyone has any further questions for Tarika Shabazz. No. So what do I do? How do I proceed? Delegation, so.
Thank you to
Nothing's
Tarika
coming
Shabazz for your presentation. If you have any follow-up questions, you're welcome to give me a call at the
Call
office.
staff. Okay, so perfect. Thanks, Wendy. What Wendy said. Tariq and Shabazz, thank you for your presentation. The committee doesn't really have any appetite to change anything to residential. If there are further requests or further comments, I encourage you to contact Wendy here at the township office. Thanks again for your presentation tonight.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 6. So we're looking at 6A, and that would be the application for severance, Dobie Road, JF Dobie and Sons Limited. Wendy, can you give us some background?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Ms. Zander from ZanderPlan is the applicant, and she has joined us tonight by Zoom. We received 2 applications for severances on Dobie Road. It's about 352-acre lot in the agricultural zone and within the agricultural policy area of our official plan on Dobie Road. So the first application proposes to create one 40-hectare or 101-acre lot. This would conform to our official plan because it's a lot we're creating that is suitable for future agricultural use. That is at least 40 hectares. The second application would be on the retained of that first severance, and that application proposes a 5.2-acre residential lot that is surplus to the farming operation of the land. And that would conform to our official plan because it's a surplus dwelling. So when we sever a surplus dwelling, we need to keep the residential portion as small as we can so that as much land as possible stays with the agricultural lot and can be farmed in the future. So in this case, this lot is a little bit larger than 2.47 acres, which is what our zoning bylaw says is the minimum size for a residential use in the agricultural zone. And that is because the driveway is quite long, so that takes up a little bit of land. And also the applicant proposes to keep the fence that's around that residential land. So the fence is accessory to the residential use. They'd like to keep that with the residential lot. So they have reduced the frontage of that residential lot, so it's only 17 meters wide. And that helps to keep more land with the agricultural parcel. So what's required here to conform with the official plan is that we rezone that final retained lot, which ends up being about 246 acres. That needs to be rezoned to prohibit future residential use on the lot because we don't want to sever to create another building lot. And we, at the same time, in the same zoning bylaw amendment application, we can rezone that residential parcel to allow the deficient frontage that's only 17 meters instead of 70 meters.
Thanks, Wendy.
Mhm.
Good? Yep.
Good.
And so comes with the recommendation that committee recommend that council recommend in favor of B-47-21 and B-48-21 Dobie Sons Unlimited with the condition that the severance 4821 a zoning bylaw amendment be attained to prohibit future non-agricultural use, including basically what Wendy said, including non-residential uses on the retained lot and allow a reduced frontage of 17 meters on the severed parcel. Is there discussion?
I think Wendy answered most of my questions. I was concerned about the driveway and who owns the driveway because I was worried a little bit about what could happen if it wasn't owned by the same people eventually. So I think you clarified that that's owned by the actual the residence itself, which is here. And I guess from that, do they have to then maintain it as well for the farm, or is that something that is that something that's written into this? Is that as well? They have to maintain it for the access for the farm facilities as well.
Through the chair. There could be a maintenance agreement between the two owners, but I forgot to mention the easement. That driveway would be owned by the residential parcel, and there would be an easement over it so that the owners of the first severed 100-acre parcel could access their lands through that driveway. An agreement for maintenance would be between the two owners.
Good. Yep. Counselor?
No, I'm good. That's what I was concerned about.
Counselor?
Thank you so much.
You're good. Mr. Mayor?
So through the chair to Wendy, if I may. So on the retained parcel number 2, you saying that retained parcel number 2, which is the far right large parcel, is about 246 acres?
Yes.
And does that parcel have an access onto Dobie Road? Or do we know? Does it have an entrance permit onto Dobie Road?
I don't believe there is an entrance permit existing. I can't say for sure. They might need to obtain it.
Okay, but that's another option for the retained number 2, is it not?
To obtain an entranceway permit, yes. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, and the same option is available to the owner of proposed severance number 1, is it not? Even though there may be an access agreement on the driveway, the long driveway, they could still, it's basically just cropland as I see it at 101 acres. It's basically just cropland with a barn on it, is it not?
Yes, they could obtain an entranceway permit. It sounds like they don't need to if they're able to have it.
Yeah, exactly. They've got 2 options.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's all I'm concerned about. Because I think there's good flexibility here. And so, I really don't have any problems with the recommendation.
Satisfied? Counselor Hunter?
Right now, these two parcels, Severance 1 and Severance 2, this is all one large farm right now, isn't it? 300 some acres. And they're splitting it in 100 acres off. What's the reason for that? Is it under 2 separate names they're registering it?
It's all the same owner right now. I don't know if they intend to sell one of the lots or not. The applicant is on the.
I don't have a problem with it. I just don't see the purpose of it going. They bought it all for agricultural land, and I know they're clearing the north end of it right now. They got most of it cleared. I don't see why they're splitting the acres they got. Why they're splitting a 300-acre farm down to a 200 and a 100.
Counselor, just for 1 sec, and Mr. Mayor, just for 1 sec. CAO or Wendy, would it be appropriate to, their planner is with us. Could they possibly have an answer to Counselor Hunter's question? And would it be appropriate, is it okay if I ask them to speak? That's procedurally okay. All right. Tracy, did you hear Counselor Hunter's comment or question?
Yes, I did. Good evening. I'm happy to answer based on my understanding. It is one very large parcel right now, and I think in the near future, it's the intent for my clients to continue to own the 100 acres and the other large agricultural property. But I think just for business purposes, they're finding as they turn over land that selling agricultural properties that are 300 or 400 acres in size is difficult to market those. And so this may be part of their kind of estate planning, is to just kind of downsize the parcels a bit. So the 100 acres, the Severance 1, as your staff indicated, does meet the lot size for an agricultural property. So it can stand alone. I think in the near future, you'll find my clients continue to farm it, but I think it makes it a bit easier for them to sell pieces if they're not quite such large agricultural properties.
Just one comment back to staff in reference to that. With this severance, though, both of those properties would only be able to be used for agricultural purposes. There'd be no possibility for residential use on either of them?
Chair, no, that's not correct. So the first severed parcel, that is a 40-hectare lot. It just become a lot of record in the agricultural zone and accessory dwelling or residential use is permitted on that.
So they still could, if there isn't, so it would, they would have the ability to sell it and somebody would be able to build on it.
Yes, the official plan tells us that if we're creating a new lot in the agricultural policy area, that it has to be of the size appropriate for future agricultural use. So it needs to be 40 hectares, but it could be used for residential use, but at least in the future that lot is there and of the size appropriate for agricultural use.
Thank you. Were you finished,
No,
Councilor?
just one question, like, I'm sure with the planner here, it's not gonna happen, but if we're doing through this severance, it's definitely gonna have to be registered under different numbers here, so, because we don't want to get joined back together again, so.
Yeah, that's their, yeah.
What's your response to that? I'd like to hear the response.
Tracy, did you hear the comment? Would you like to respond or?
Sure, yes. Yes, it certainly makes good sense. And I always advise my clients to put several lots in different names. Technically, under the Planning Act, the ruling is once a severance, always a severance. So if lot 1 gets created by a consent approval, it will not merge back with abutting properties, even if they're in the same name. However, to be prudent, I always recommend my clients put properties in separate names just to be sure that never happens.
For sure. You're finished now, Councilor? Yeah. Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So through the chair back to Tracy again. Good evening, Tracy. Nice to see you again. Tracy, just a question. So if I'm looking at severance lot number 1, which is the one on the left-hand side, it's 101 acres. If someone decides to build, if they decide to sell that to an independent third party unknown at this time, and that party decides to build a house on it, we would have no recourse but to issue a building permit for a home, provided that there was an entrance permit on Dobie Road, or that the easement agreement on the long driveway was transferable to a new owner. Is that correct?
So through you, Mr. Chair, it's partly correct. So if this gets approved, lot 1 gets created as a standalone lot together with an easement over severance 2. So on title, it will have legal easement over the flag-shaped lot, if you will, to get access to Dobie Road. I think as staff indicated, I suppose subject to complying with your entrance policies, they could seek a new entrance. I believe they have a field entrance there for access to the fields, but on title, they would have legal access over that, the easement in the flag-shaped lot that is to be created. So yes, it would be a building lot, so subject to complying with your zoning policies, there's really no reason why somebody couldn't build a house on that lot in the future.
Okay, so follow-up question?
Yeah, sure.
So then the follow-up question is, that party has, that independent third party unknown at this time has built the house. Now they come to us and they want that house severed off that 101 acres. That's an impossibility, is it not?
I mean, technically, if this gets approved, you are already granting a surplus farm dwelling severance from this 350 or so acre property. So I think if somebody built a house and then came to sever, first of all, it would have to be a surplus farm dwelling severance because we're still in an agricultural area, and your records would show the severance history that's already happened here. And I would think they wouldn't be eligible for that, but I guess I'd have to look at your policies a bit more closely.
Just 1 second, Tracy. Wendy, would you like to?
Thank you. If I can through the chair, Mr. Mayor, I have an answer to that question. Our official plan says you can only create 2 new lots from an existing lot of record as it was, and that the lot of record as it was in December of 2003. And so from the lot of record, those are your two lots are being taken right now.
Finished.
That's it, that's all. Yeah.
That's just what I wanted clarified.
Yep. Okay. Who hasn't spoken? Greg, I've remembered you this time. Mr. Mollendar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess
A little bit louder, Greg, if you've got some volume.
my only question would be on the retained farm parcel. says it's prohibited for construction of any additional dwellings. Is that forever or under the current owner?
That would be done through a zoning bylaw amendment. It would forever on the property unless we change the zoning.
So if that piece of property is subsequently sold, no one could build on it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions? If they do not, I need a mover in a second.
I'll second.
Question or no? So moved by Councillor Hunter, seconded by the mayor. The questions coming, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? We're good. Thanks, Tracy.
Everybody, have a good night.
You're more than welcome to stay for the rest if you want.
I'll keep an eye out, but I'll turn my video off. Thanks, folks. Good night.
Have a good night.
Smart lady.
All right, so we are 6A2, I believe, correct? Application for site plan control, 8072 County Road 44. Yes. Wendy, do you want to give us a little background on that one?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We received an application for a site plan control agreement at 8072 County Road 44. This is to build a telecommunications facility on the south end of the property. I would note that Freedom Mobile is regulated and licensed by Innovation Science and Economic Development Canada, which is formerly Industry Canada. They're actually not required to follow our the Ontario Planning Act and other municipal bylaws, but they are required to follow our established and documented telecommunication protocols or processes. And for the Township of Edwards, for Cardinal, our process is that we request site plan control. So they've submitted a site plan control application. I would just note that for this site plan control application, I added to the agreement that although the site plan control agreement is registered to the title of the entire lands, I put a note in the agreement that it would only apply to the portion of the lands for the driveway and the telecommunications tower. Upon reflection, I'm looking at the other site plan control agreements we've done in the past and would hate for them to want to build a shed or a garage in the future and need to have an amendment to their site plan control agreement for that reason when it's so far away. So that would be the only thing I've done differently in this process compared to the past.
Thank you, Wendy. Question before we start is the process that Freedom Mobile is going through with this application. Is it the traditional way that we usually do telecommunications, or is the agreement usually between say the property owner and the municipal government versus Freedom Mobile and the municipal government? Is there?
Yeah. All of our site plan control agreements are agreements between the township and the property owner, and it would be the same in this case as well.
Okay, so let's.
Point of information.
Yeah, sure.
Just before we start, point of information through the chair. Can you tell me the date that the application was received?
If I can have a few moments, I can look that up.
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman, and I think Wendy will get it.
Sure, I think we can continue a discussion and if we need, when we can. I'm going to start with Mr. Modler this time, so I don't forget him. Greg, any questions? None? Chris?
No, I don't know.
No? Connor, how about you?
Yeah, there's a, last year, I believe, up on Yoakum Road, there was a cell tower going in. I haven't seen it go up. If there's a hole in the coverage, why not use the existing plan for that cell tower? North of Yoakum Road on the east side of the highway was supposed to be a tower, which again, we weren't allowed to stop or question as per CRTC, I guess, but why do we need another one if the original one still hasn't gone up? And the one in Johnstown hasn't come down. I thought there was just gonna be one there.
Is there a question to staff?
Well, I don't want to interrupt you doing your other towers, but does anyone else at the table know about that other towers?
Is the one on Yocum Road, is it a Freedom Tower?
I don't think it was the same company,
Okay. Maybe
but
that's the answer.
it often will be a company that rents out space to other providers for money. So
Mr.
it
Mayor?
would be equitable to do.
So Yocum Road, I forget where it is in
Just-
relation to this.
Just like a kilometer north of here.
It's north, yeah.
North of here, north of where we're sitting or north of this site plan?
Northwood site.
So the current site plan, sorry.
North of the current site plan. Okay, so is the information that we're receiving correct? Did we approve a site plan agreement for a location on Yocum Road, approximately a kilometer away from this site?
Sorry, it'd be about 3.5 kilometers, but still, they go a long distance with those radio
We
broadcasts.
approved one too, though, off of Bristol Road.
How many do we need without them actually being constructed?
Well, can I answer that, Mr. Chairman?
I was going to staff, but sure.
Well, the reason is there are a number of third-party operators in the game that build these towers. And in many cases, they're finding locations and entering into site plan agreements strictly on speculation that they'll find a buyer who will support the construction of a tower. So, you know, it's a business deal, basically. Some towers will get built and others won't. We recently approved one for Winans Farm. I don't know whether that one will get built or not, but I think the committee should be aware, Mr. Chairman, that as a result of the announcement that was made a week or so ago by Minister Scott and Minister Monsef, where the Cell Gap project is slated to proceed, there will be 300 additional towers built in Eastern Ontario, in the 13 counties in Eastern Ontario. Now, those 300 towers are going to be built with the sole purpose of closing the cell gap, the gaps in the cell phone coverage. But that will be done by means of different and new radios on existing towers and new towers. And the number of new towers, they know it's 300 plus, but they don't know the locations. So I think there are a number of companies, this is Forbes, that are in this business of building and renting towers. I think there are a number of them that are, how shall I say, trying to get locations lined up. That's my understanding.
Councillor Hunt? Did you want to, hold on, Wendy, did you want to add something before we go any further?
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to answer your earlier.
Yes, perfect.
So I received the application on May 13th. It would have been a complete application a few days later when I received the payment by mail. So May 13th is when I have the application.
Thanks.
Councillor Hunt?
Well, I don't see a problem with approving it. Like, we've already got, I know sites that was approved back when it was Edgeworth Township, but farmers are still getting paid monthly rent on these property and there's still trees growing on them.
No towers.
It doesn't hurt anything, it doesn't hurt. Owners get a chance to make a few dollars out of some land that they're not using here, and I think the whole game of these is that nobody really knows what the grid pattern is going to be for where these towers are. There may be some towers up now that will become obsolete because they're not in the right grid pattern to do it. So everybody's trying to get every high ground that they can find.
Thanks, Councillor Hunt. Councillor Cameron?
No, I have no problem with the recommendation.
No, I was just gonna make a motion to accept the recommendation.
So moved by Councillor Dillabaugh. I need a
Yes.
seconder. Councillor Cameron. Before we go, I just want to, normally I wouldn't add in, I just want to add in my 2 cents that, you know, as the mayor's fought hard through Eorn and through Lots of other mechanisms. Anyone that gets the opportunity, this council supported certainly closing the cell phone gap in the past. As a member of this committee, I certainly, whatever it takes to get the cell phone gap closed and get us safer is good. So for me, approving towers is a wonderful thing. So if there are no further comments,
You
look
know, I
like you
mean,
wanna,
it's a good insight that we got actually from the mayor with this whole tower situation, if you will. Is there a limitation on how long these are approved for? Because I mean, we could end up, with lots of towers out there, for instance, or abandoned towers at some point, as I think Councilor Hunter mentioned.
Wendy, do we know an answer to that question? Is there a length? I suppose that the length of the agreement would be between the company and the landowner.
So the site plan control agreement lasts forever.
Yeah.
There is another agreement between the property owner and Freedom Mobile. That would say Freedom Mobile is responsible for X, Y, and Z. I would like our agreement to be between us and the property owner, so that should something happen to Freedom Mobile, it's the property owner that we have the ability to be reimbursed for if we had to do work to correct something. So I think that's important.
Say that.
And it is, sorry.
So continue.
And it is explicit upon its cell phone and cell phone data, not other things that come along down the road that we may not, you never know if some other technology comes down the road that we may have had this conversation about. It's approved for just those things only, right?
That's a good question.
Drones.
That is not included in the site plan agreement.
Drones, yeah, maybe.
I think you were first and Councilor Hunter was second.
Okay, so the interesting issue that's been brought up here is the issue of towers that are no longer in use. And of course, we don't know which towers are no longer in use. And a good example, I think, is the truck stop, Angelo's truck stop, where we had a 30-foot tower that's now got a 90-foot tower, less than 200 meters away. And we know that there will be certain companies that will go on the 90-foot tower. And whether the companies that are on the lower tower will remain on that lower tower or not, we don't know. But who, other than the owner of the property, is in a position to say, I want that tower removed? Just the property owner. Now, what would motivate the property owner to say, I want that tower removed? Answer, when he stops receiving revenue. Then he'll want the tower removed, theoretically. Now, I'm sure that somebody will give him a hard time about it, but as the owner of the property, he has the ultimate right to say to whoever owns that tower, get it out of here, I'm not getting any revenue from it. So I would think that's the way the marketplace will drive this whole situation of abandoned towers. And by the way, Mr. Chairman, one of the things that came up subsequent to the announcement, to the minister's announcement, is that the radio equipment that is going to be installed on these towers, existing and new, to close this cell phone gap will all be 5G enabled technology by Ericsson. And that 5G enabled technology will eventually be able to help us, to help EORN achieve their gig to gig project. Now, again, the gig to gig project is just a twinkle in the eye right now because they're still trying to get the dollars allocated for it. But as more and more of these towers get built and outfitted with these 5G radios, the closer and closer we get to a higher penetration of service.
Good point. Councilor?
I think the answer to the question about who controls them, I know of some of the agreements. I've been approached by a couple of different ones, some land I own. Most of the agreements are 20-year agreements with the option for 2 5-year extensions on them. And in the agreement includes that when they're done with them or any towers, they have up to 6 months for complete removal and restoration of the land.
Oh, that's in the agreement
Most
that
of
they
them
made with
have that.
the owner.
Most of the owners are having that in, they give them 6 months if they're done. They quit paying, they got 6 months to restore the land.
Off it goes.
Farmers are always tough on us.
Greg, you said no comments? Nothing? Connor, are you satisfied?
Yeah, I just wanted to know about those other ones we approved and why they aren't built, and then there's another one. I understand how it works to have more is good, but the technology is also up there so that you don't need as many.
Well, I think like the mayor said, people are trying to get in to make it.
It's more speculation.
Especially in an underserviced area.
Yeah, that's what I did. They may not even go up on 44 and Browsville.
Yeah, right.
There's a couple of farmers in the area have been getting paid for 20 years every month, and they've never even cut a tree on the land.
All right, so we do have a recommendation, and this committee recommend that council enter into a site plan control agreement as attached with the owners. You moved already. Did you have a
Yes.
seconder?
I did.
Councillor Cameron, so then I'm gonna call the question then, all in favor?
That's good.
Yes.
Unanimous again. Good, we're on a roll. All right, so back to the agenda, which I can't see without my glasses. Item 6A3, which is a request to reconsider road widening at 12 Riverview Crescent, Shaggy's Fries. And Mr. Kenny, I believe you're the other Greg here tonight. Welcome, Greg. I think if the committee has questions, they will, it's not a delegation, so he'll answer questions if we have questions. Wendy, you'll speak to the request. Okay, if you would.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Welcome, Greg.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We received a request from Mr. Kenny, owner of 12 Riverview Crescent, where Shaggy's Fries is located. If you recall, last year in August, we entered into a site plan control agreement with Mr. Kenny. As part of the site plan control agreement, we said that the township required road widening so that if future road improvements were necessary on Riverview Crescent, that we would have the land to do that. That's the reason we asked for road widening. In this case, we requested that the center of the road allowance to Mr. Kenny's property line would be 10 meters. We also put a condition in that site plan control agreement that the refreshment vehicle or the business wouldn't be operational until all of the conditions of the site plan control agreement were met. So Mr. Kenny has, well, prior to opening his refreshment vehicle, in order to not waste any time, it's a short season that he's able to operate in. He wasn't able to get the road widening done in time, but provided us with a solicitor's undertaking that guaranteed he would have it done by the end of June. We felt that satisfied the intent of the agreement, and he was given his refreshment vehicle license after meeting all of the other conditions. Now that he's had a surveyor look at the land and actually measure the width of the road allowance, where we required 10 meters, it was actually 9.61. And in the other area, it was 9.71 meters. So we're so close. We found the same thing on County Road, where the counties had requested the road allowance be 15.25 meters from the center of the road allowance to the property line. And it was just shy, I think it was 15.23 meters, and the counties waived the requirement. So we have a letter here from Mr. Kenny tonight requesting that we waive that requirement. He has offered, if we're interested, to provide us solicitor's undertaking that says, should we start some road improvements on Riverview Crescent in the future, it would provide us with the guarantee that he would deed the land to the township.
Good, thank you, Wendy. So open to the committee for discussion. I think I'm going to start over here with Chris.
Okay, no, I we remember this one well, and I think with that letter of intent from the lawyer, I think that brings us into close enough territory, is all I would say to that. So
good, Councillor Steve.
Yeah, and I think the alternative, like if we ever need it, we can go to him, he'll give it to us. We had something like that in writing. I mean, he's done a great job there. It looks nice.
Thank you.
Have money on it.
Councillor
I mean,
Kim?
let's,
Sorry, I concur with my two previous colleagues.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, good evening, how are you tonight?
Fine, how are you, Mr. Mayor?
Good, and so I'll also compliment you on the appearance of your site. I know it's been
Thank you.
a tough road for you, but I do have some questions here.
Sure.
This lawyer's undertaking that I have in front of me,
Yes.
it says, I undertake, I'm just reading the words on the page.
Yes, sir.
I undertake to you as follows, to provide you with a completed and registered survey and deed to the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal for 10 meters from the middle of the municipal road by June the 30th, 2021. Now that says that he's going to give us a survey and a deed that we've got 10 meters. And it's dated May the 3rd, 2021. So is he actually transferring us, doing a survey and transferring land to us? Or is he promising to transfer land to us? Because I'm being asked to waive the condition of the site plan agreement.
1 second, Mr. Mayor. Wendy?
I think I could offer some clarity. Prior to obtaining the refreshment vehicle license, he needed to have all of the requirements of the site plan control agreement met, and he had not yet done that survey or the road widening. And so surveyors are very busy right now. And so instead of having that done, he provided this undertaking to us so that we could give this refreshment vehicle license.
When did he provide it?
On May 3rd.
2021?
Yes.
We approved the site plan last year. Wasn't this given to us in substitute for the site plan?
No.
I'm just thinking there's a wrong date on this letter.
I don't think so. Mr. Kenny, there.
We approved the site plan last year, didn't we?
Mr. Kenny, the letter's correct, right, from the lawyer undertaking, the dates?
Yes, it is.
Well, he's offering to. When did we approve the site plan agreement?
We approved the site plan control agreement in August of 2020.
Yeah.
And yes, he needed to have the road widening done before obtaining the refreshment vehicle license. I think getting close to the date of opening, realized he wasn't going to have a surveyor to get the work done in time, and provided this undertaking to us so he could obtain his refreshment vehicle license and provide us some assurance that he was going to get the road widening done. Now that we've done the survey and realized it's so close.
It was tied to the opening, not to the site plan.
Yes, yes.
That's the difference. Okay, now I'm clear. All right, now I understand the issue. All right, so now, what we're being asked to do in the recommendation is waive the required road dedication for the site plan control agreement based on the survey results, right? That's what we're being asked to do. So we're waiving it. He has no further obligation to provide us with 10 meters. Right?
I'm not asking you to, may I speak?
Right, no, just.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. It's not a delegation, it's a discussion, so if the mayor.
I'm sorry.
Through me wants to ask you a question, we'll let him ask that question, but I'll come back and give you the opportunity.
I apologize.
Okay, that's okay.
But basically what I'm doing is I'm asking the staff for clarification of the recommendation, because as I read the recommendation, the committee is recommending to council that council by resolution waive the required road dedication for the site plan control agreement, waive it completely, and then there'll be no further obligation to provide 10 meters because it's already been surveyed and it's close enough. I think the differential is 36 centimeters.
So if you, CAO or Wendy, would you like to speak to that?
Well, the community development coordinator speak to that.
Sure. Sorry, I feel like the chances of us requiring that land on Riverview Crescent for road improvements is really small. And I made my recommendation because I didn't feel it was necessary for the owner to go and obtain another solicitor's undertaking to say he would have that done. I've also provided an alternative recommendation that would say he needs a solicitor's undertaking, and I would leave that up to the committee.
What's the alternative?
Right above the recommendation is the alternative. I'll come back. I gotta go this way. Hold it.
I see what
Very
you're
good.
saying. Yeah.
I can move on. Councillor Hunter?
I agree with the alternate recommendation.
The alternate?
Yeah.
Connor?
I see no concerns.
Good. Chris, I'll come back to you then.
No, and I think we just agreed there. I mean, I was agreeing to the alternate being that as long as we have something in writing that should we need that, it's the extra foot basically that it's there for us, right? So that was
Okay. So first, I'm going to weigh in on this one as well. So to Mr. Kenny, well done through the entire process. It has been a long and arduous task for you. For sure, the commitment you've made to your property is fantastic, and you've done an absolute wonderful job there. It looks fantastic. So commend you. I see no problem with either one of these recommendations. The county's already waived their road allowance need. I will go with whatever the committee decides. So looking at the committee for a little bit of direction to whether they want to support the alternative or the recommendation. So
Mr. Chair,
oh, sorry, Greg, I forgot you again. My bad, sorry.
no problem. Just a couple of questions, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, to Wendy. Have all other conditions of the site plan agreement been met, i.e. the height of the fence with the lattice all around? Have all conditions been met with the site plan agreement?
My understanding is they have.
Follow up at all,
I
Mr. Mather?
personally visited the site to look, so.
So no one has actually gone to the site to verify that, correct? I just want to make sure that we're saying that all requirements have been met, and we're asking to waive one of the other requirements. And I just want to make sure all other requirements have been met. And that was my, I'm just concerned that driveway is difficult to get out of right now. If there's oncoming traffic, either way, I know we're only talking less than a few feet, but if the committee wants to go with it, then I'll support that recommendation.
To the CAO, to the community development planner, when this issue came up, it was the only issue in relation to the site plan control agreement that was holding things back. So it's, I don't want to assume, but is it, that was the only comment that was made by, I'm assuming CBO?
Yes, sorry, Mr. Chair. I just have trouble saying yes because I haven't visited it myself, but I know that our clerk would have checked before issuing the refreshment vehicle license, and I know that more than one staff member, our bylaw officer and our chief building official have visited the site. So sorry for hesitating, but I believe that all of the
And I visited.
I visited. No, right.
it looks fantastic.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Okay. Great. Go ahead, Greg.
I'm satisfied if Wendy and all the municipal employees have looked at it, then I'm satisfied.
Okay, so we have two options. There is a recommendation, so I think I'm going to start it. How do I go about that? Do I ask? Because if the recommendation fails,
Mr. Chair, maybe somebody would like to move a recommendation.
one or the other.
Yeah,
Like to second it,
yeah.
and then you could vote.
So okay, so hold on for 1 second. So Chris, you had your hand up first.
Okay,
So
I
you
was
go.
gonna say, I would like to move the alternate so that And the reason I want to do that is because we promised the residents in the area already, there was a lot of discussion about this, and we might as well try and adhere to what we said we were gonna do back then. So I'd like to say I would go for the alternate, which would be a letter.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Dillabaugh. Further discussion as to supporting the alternative recommendation? Hearing,
Well, I agree with the alternative, which, it just kind of it keeps the door open. If the township needs it, they agree to pass it on, which that makes more sense than just waiving it completely, because in the future, if the township needs it or anything else, then it just makes it more difficult.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so any other discussion?
Well, yeah, I'm having a little bit of trouble with the alternative.
How so?
Well, the required amount is 10 meters. The surveyed amount is 9.61.
Yep.
The differential is 0.39 of a meter, 39 centimeters, right? I just don't think that there's much point of asking this gentleman, after what he's been through, to provide us with an undertaking to provide us with 0.39 meters of land at some unknown time in the future.
I agree.
You know, so let's just wipe the slate clean and get it out behind us
So,
and him.
so the place that I find myself in right now is that we have the alternative
On the floor.
option on the floor being moved and seconded. So we do have to vote yay or nay for that. I guess is everybody else weighed in? You've had a chance?
Well, I would support an alternative to start with. I know we're going by third of a meter. That's still a foot.
It's a curve.
And when you get
Just if we ever
curves and
need.
stuff in there, it narrows it down. We promised the people we're gonna give them a 20-foot road.
Yeah,
allowance.
that's
So,
right. That's
Well,
good point.
I can
It's
see
the
it
width of
both.
a curve.
I can see it both ways. I mean,
You have a motion.
I do, and are you
We're leading.
finished? Yeah, we're still discussing, and the chair's going to unusually weigh in again. I think that Mr. Kenny has gone so far above and beyond. Yes, we supported the residents of New Exford for sure, and included a lot of comments in them. I think that the recommendation came from our staff for road widening. And that request is so small. The county's already waived road widening on Highway 2. I mean, I'll support whatever committee wants to put forward, but I mean, if I had my choice, I would go with the staff written recommendation. So having said that, though, we do have a motion on the floor, a mover and a seconder, and if there are no other comments, then we need to vote.
Well,
Connor.
the reasoning that I feel that way, it's already very, very narrow. So when the smaller a road, the more important a foot is. And that's really it, because I think we don't want people parking on the road anyway, so widening it would be kind of promoting parking on the road, which we don't want. But like I mentioned at the first meeting, I think you're gonna get transport trucks parking on there anyway, so you need that foot.
Well, I hope you don't get transport trucks parking on the cul-de-sac.
You're gonna get it.
I don't think
It's
so.
gonna happen once,
Yeah.
and that means it happened.
It's already happened.
Okay, so Mr. Mayor, you want to weigh in again?
Well, I'm pretty heavily, in spite of what I said a minute ago, I'm pretty heavily influenced by one of the comments here just a minute ago. 39 centimeters is the width of a curb. And if you do a full, what they call a full urban cross section, it's a curb on both sides of the road and pavement, crown pavement in between, it's curb and gutter. And 39 centimeters is the width of a curb. So, we can't see the future, so
All right, let's vote.
maybe I'll support the alternative.
Let's vote. We have
That's what you
mover.
call flip-flopping.
I think I'm going to take an unusual step and ask Mr. Kenny. Did you want to add anything to the conversation, Greg, before we continue? I know this is unusual, but I'm gonna ask him.
I don't think so. I appreciate the opportunity to speak, but I don't think that we're going to have any transport traffic down there. I think there was one transport that tried to attempt a delivery and we accepted it and then told them that was it in the future. We wouldn't be accepting it there. So I don't see transports being there. I don't have a problem either way. If council wants to support me getting a letter, I'll go ahead and do it. It is another expense for us to do that. I think to date, we're probably invested well over 300,000 in the location, and I'd love that to stop bleeding, but we are successful, and you know, we've created 4 full-time and 5 part-time jobs so far, and I think we're just going to get busier. So it'd be nice not to have to spend more money unnecessarily, but if council requires me to undertake and get a letter binding us to give you, in the one case, the foot, and at the other end of the lot, the 2 feet, then that's what council decides.
Okay, thanks, thanks, Greg, and again, thanks for your investment as well in the township. It's great. Okay, so we do have, sorry, Steve, I know you want me to call the question. We do have a mover and a seconder, so I am going to call the question. All in favor?
Let's clarify, what are we voting on right now?
The moved,
Okay.
the alternative has been moved, it's been seconded, we're voting on the alternative, which would require that letter. So all in favor?
Yes.
All right, so unanimous. Mr. Kenny, we're going with the alternative, which still requires you to just provide the letter, but not actually the deed, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. So again, Greg, thanks for all the work and the commitment that you've made. The site does look fantastic.
Well done.
Well done.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate that, and thanks for voting to support the alternative.
All right, moving on. So 2.6, put your glasses down. 6B, the application for community improvement funding at 9 Spencer Street, which is Trinkets Boutique, and that's Melissa and Pete Rainville. I think I saw that Pete is there. Welcome to the Committee of the Whole Community Development Committee again, Mr. Rainville.
Thank you, sir.
Wendy will speak to your application, and if the committee has any questions for you or any comments, just keep yourself available if you would, and they'll fire away at you. Otherwise, there probably won't be a need to speak. Wendy, go for it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have an application for community improvement funding at 9 Spencer Street for the property and facade improvement program at 9 Spencer Street. This is the former Macintosh Cider House and the future home of Trinkets Boutique in that commercial retail area of the building. The owners are planning to do some landscaping improvements and also construct an iron fence on the west side of the property. So we've received an application for that, and staff have done the review, and it conforms with the provisions of the community improvement plan. And I'm going to stop talking there.
Good. Thank you, Wendy, for that. So I'm going to open it up. I think I'll go by show of hands for anyone that wants to speak for the CIP applications instead of going around the table. So does anyone have any comments or concerns? Councillor Hunter first.
Well, I just have one comment. I'm glad to see that you are willing to keep investing in the township. Certainly, I think your design here is going to make it look a lot nicer down there in the corner. That whole thing getting pretty dilapidated there over the years, and I know of all the bad luck you've had over the last 2 or 3 months, glad to see you still have the entrepreneur spirit to keep digging in and reinvesting, so I'm all in support of it, so.
Does anyone else want to speak for or against? Mr. Mayor?
Good evening, Pete. Nice to see you again. How are you doing?
Thank you, sir. I'm doing quite well, thank you.
So, yeah, I'm echoing Councillor Hunter's comments, and I'll be supporting the application here. But I just have one question on the schematic that you provided to us. I understand where Spencer Street is, but is the roadway that goes down the side of your property where the fence will go, is that actually known as Center Street down there?
From what I understand, sir, from maps and other drawings that I've found historically, it is called Center Street, yes.
Okay, but it's really, there's no traffic on it, really, is there? No public traffic?
No, sir, there's not. There's only a turn into the back end of Joe's restaurant.
Right. So, and I agree with Councillor Hunter, a nice looking iron fence in that area to replace that wooden fence will look great. And well, we wish you the best with your new business in that location.
Thank you very much. We look forward to reinvesting continuously into our community, and we're here for the long haul.
This side, Chris?
Just through the chair, can I ask a question of Pete as well?
Absolutely.
Okay. I was just curious, maybe it's just me having a hard time looking at the drawing and reading the drawing. Will the access now be on the side, or will they still have to go through the carport essentially to get down to the
My hope is, my hope is to actually put a gate on the side of the street, Center Street, so that people do not have to necessarily walk through our carport. We're going to determine in the future what we're going to do with that carport. But we also don't want to impinge or infringe on road access on Center Street. So we have to be very careful with what we do.
Thank you.
Satisfied? Anyone else?
Good.
I'd like to move to approve it.
Okay, someone has moved, I'm sorry, I missed the recommendation. The recommendation is the committee approves the application S-02-21 Rainsville, reimbursing 50% of the actual costs to complete the proposed property improvements, including landscape and fencing, to a maximum of $5,000. I'll second that. And seconded. And Wendy, can you refresh just one question before we go on? Was the property subject to a CIP in the past?
Yes.
And the dollar value that is applied for now falls within the parameters? Sorry, I missed, if it's written in there, I missed it.
That's okay, Mr. Chair. It was actually a separate program. It was still under the community improvement plan. But there are different programs under the community improvement plan, and the previous application was for the building and permits application fees rebate. So the maximum you're allowed under the plan is $10,000. The property and facade improvement portion can be a maximum of $5,000, and the building application and permit fees can be a maximum of $5,000. If they were to spend the full $5,000 here, it would bring them to $6,500. So it's still under the
Still well within.
Continue to invest in.
Okay, perfect. If nobody else wants to go, or nobody else has any further comments, then Greg, sorry, I missed you again. No, good. Okay, so then this is pretty simple. Call the question then, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great.
Aye.
Pete, to you and to Melissa, sad, very sad about what happened to Trinkets in its old location. And I know it's certainly, as a fellow small business owner, I know how difficult small business has been for you and Melissa both over the last year. I am happy to see that you're willing to continue to invest and support Spencerville, and I'm happy to see that you're both still here. So and moving forward in a good direction. So thanks for your commitment to our township, Pete and Melissa.
Much appreciated, and thank you to the township itself and the town council.
All All right, so on to 6. I did everything I'm supposed to do. On to 6B2, Wendy, business impact survey for of COVID-19.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just recently, we collected survey results from local business owners and business owners within the counties. I felt this would be of interest to the committee and wanted to share it here. There were, the survey was done, led by the counties, part of the business support working groups, which I've been a part of since March 2020, where we get together every few weeks as a group and discuss how we can support our businesses. It includes members of BIAs, members of partner municipalities, different government organizations, and the Employment and Education Center. We completed a survey in, I think it was April of 2020, just at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. And as a group felt it was appropriate to do another survey and get more updated results to see what the needs of our businesses are as they try to recover from all that COVID-19 has done.
Great, thanks Wendy. Quite a fulsome report or survey through the counties. I'm going to go around and this, I mean, it's a perfect sort of lead in to the next item as well. Let's discuss, start here. So I'm going to go up above Chris this time, and I'm going to start with Mr. Modler. Greg, do you have anything you want to discuss from the survey?
No, nothing at this point, Mr. Chair.
Welcome down to Chris.
Sure, I to your point, Mr. Chair. It is a good back-to-back conversation that's being developed here with the one side of, say the impacts of COVID-19 and some things that I saw in there, and then the next conversation that goes along with this, because a conversation that can somehow bridge, the people who are affected, the unemployed people who are getting assistance through this whole pandemic, and it seems to be a void of jobs as well out there that are available but just not being filled is a really intriguing thing we have to try and figure out how to assess and whatnot. So I didn't have a lot of time to read over this, unfortunately, just the way the weekend worked, but yeah, I want to continue the conversation on this, obviously, and I just want to put that out there that it's a good thing to bridge and finish this night up with.
Good, thanks for your comments, Chris. Councillor Dillman?
No, I'm fine. Thank you very much. A well done report, though.
Yeah, good report.
Nothing here.
Nothing? Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, so just a few comments, if I may, Mr. Chair. So first of all, I want to acknowledge the work of the Business Support Working Group organized by, and we're at the United Counties, and the work that they've done with our small business community over this period. And I want to also acknowledge Wendy's contribution to that group and to their efforts. This final survey, which I hope is the final survey as this COVID-19 comes to an end, we've had the survey results in one of our earlier correspondence packages, and I asked to have a copy of it then, and I've looked it through. And I guess the main thing that comes through to me as I read through the survey, and I read it all right from one end to the other, is the frustration of the small business community. And in a way, as a former small businessman, I just know and can feel what these people are going through. I just cannot imagine what it would be like to be out of business, such as you are, Mr. Chair, for months on end. I just can't imagine it. So as I read the survey, I read a sense of frustration, and I feel very powerless myself to do anything. I don't know what to do. I depend on the working group to tell me if there are concrete steps that we can take. And I know that, that the working group has worked extensively with our small business community to help people through grants, to explain the various different grant programs, But what comes through as you read the comments is, I tried this program and wasn't eligible. I tried to fill out that application and it didn't work. What comes through is a tremendous sense of frustration. And, I can feel it. So all I can say, Mr. Chairman, in addition to thanking the people that have worked so hard on the working group and thanking the people in the business community that have sort of hung in there, is I hope that this will soon be over and that you'll be back to business. And I know that there's no way you can ever recoup the losses that you took during this period of time, but I just wish you continued stick-to-itiveness and continued success. And that's about all I can say, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Hunter?
Well, I think it's a excellently done survey. There's a few things that really going through it as a business person, and I'm sure you make the same comments. I'm really surprised at the few respondents, the percentage of business that responded. And I'm surprised with some of the uptakes of some of the data that come out. Like I'm looking right now at one question there that says, what's your status? Like 7.1% closing permanent, only 12 businesses. That seems like a pretty low number. As hard at times when we've come through that we've only lost, there's only 12 that are saying we're closing permanent. We've got 38 that says we're closing short term. I get that, I'm one of them. But I think our people in the township have showed a remarkable resilience to uptaking different ways of marketing their product. And under the difficulties we've had, as you go through the survey, you see one of the main thing listed in there, the trouble businesses are having is getting employees. And your 40% said one of their trouble was being able to hire employees. Like, we're in a pandemic and we can't get employees. Like I grant it, we hear the response. Myself and other small business, we're been given some support by different levels of government to help us. But it's maybe a cruel thing to say, but some of the support that was given out so generous to keep people from surviving has kind of hurt small business because we can't get people to come to work. So I know it's a catch-22 here. What do you do? Like, you're always going to get people abuse the system, but some of the handouts we give help to people, but it sure didn't help some of the business to get like right now, even at this date when things are opening back up. I don't know a construction company right in the area right now that hasn't got anywhere from 5 to 25 jobs. They're looking for laborers, truck drivers, everything. And they're not paying minimum wage either. Like, they're paying $20 an hour to start most of them, and they can't get people to come to work. So I don't know what the answer is. It's a good survey and I really appreciate it, the work that's done, and it gives you a lot of insights to the business people that when you read through it. I'm not the only one that's having that problem, but it's I don't know, I'm like the mayor, you get frustrated and you don't know what we can do as a council to help this situation out. But we're developing, we're priding ourselves in our industrial park and our expansion, and we're getting new businesses coming in all the time, but that's gonna come to a stop if we can't provide labor for them when they come. I don't know, that's my comments on it. I don't know where we're going.
Good comments, Councilor Hunter. Yeah, good comments. Connor, to you?
It was pretty illuminating reading the other comments, like the alternative answer to the check boxes. There's a few in the survey that were interesting to read.
That's good.
Good.
Okay.
All good.
Mr. Mayor, you want to come back?
Yeah, through you to Wendy, if I may. Wendy, I'm just wondering if has this survey, have the survey results been shared, for example, with Clark's office and MP Barrett's office, and have the comments that Councillor Hunter has made about inability to get staff. Have those comments been shared up the line, do you know?
Can I?
Through the chair, we have members of Steve Clark and Michael Barrett's office on our business support working group calls often. So I would have to say yes, they have been distributed these the survey results. I don't know how to answer the rest of the question.
Yeah, I mean, I think both have spoken openly to, labor shortage, issues, even pre-pandemic. There, is and has been a labor shortage. It's certainly been, magnified for sure through the pandemic. If I can, this one's a little more near to me than normal because I am a small business owner, and in the last basically the last 6 months we've been open for 6 weeks, and when you talk about hard, it's hard. I mean, you run your business. I run my business as conservatively as I can. I don't overspend. I don't over extend myself in any way. And it sure has been difficult for sure. Two things that I think are, that I want to comment on, because we've kind of had two different issues. One is employees and one is small businesses, and 12 businesses or 12% of the businesses could possibly see closure. That's based on, receiving up to $20,000 of Ontario Main Street grant programs if they qualified. So, and in this year's Ontario budget, that was doubled. So you could have received a minimum of 20,000 between those two and a maximum of 40. So from a business support mechanism from the province, I mean, that was a really good small business. I know it certainly helped my business with survival for sure. None of that money went to employees, although we could have topped up employees' EI and those sort of things. That was directly to help us make it through these long extended closures. Again, going to the province, the $2,500 digital Main Street, we just had a presentation last time. That certainly helped a lot of businesses transition from into more of an internet-based economy. But going to where Councillor Hunter was talking, the employee shortage, to me, goes back to being CERB. And I think it's called CRB now instead of CERB. And during the first lockdown, myself, I worked a second job at a local warehouse. And I mean, a lot of the jobs, they're not high paying jobs. They're, under $20 an hour for what I did. And with the ability to collect CERB or then and CRB now, a lot of those people that were driving from longer distances away chose to take a little less money and stay at home. And I think as long as that, I know it sounds terrible, but as long as that grant's still available for people to not work, there's not much incentive to work. And as an employer, it's been suggested from some of my employees that, that they could possibly stay at home and make almost as much money. And as an employer, it's hard because you pay what you can pay, and you still have to make a profit at the end of the day. So lastly, my only comment, and it's really going into the next discussion for me here, but we've said municipally, what can we do? There isn't much we can do, but there is one thing that we do have as municipal leaders, and that's our voice. And I know you've been vocal, you're always in support, or I know all of our council is in support of all of our small businesses. And I know last time during the lockdown, we embraced a regional reopening actually, we're going into the next one, so maybe I'll wait until that. Are there any further comments on the business impact survey before we go down the wrong road?
I mean, I know the data is usually available at a regular basis as well through other means, census, or Stats Canada data, things like that. There's some key metrics in here that I think we should try and continue to monitor going forward, because, if we're not seeing the employment numbers get better as we get out of lockdown, there may be some, proactive influencing, I guess is probably the way you're intimating it, that should be considered to be done. I don't know what it is, but having businesses help to get people, because I have heard from people saying, it's a $20 an hour job, but I can't afford to have a vehicle to get there. So, things like that the county the attention wouldn't be involved in, but could help to have those conversations to see if there's a private way that something like that can be organized, or, just not to touch off the topic, but,
I think a lot of what you're saying actually comes into item D, which is probably the community safety and well-being plan, as well as, for jobs and transportation and all that sort of stuff as well. So there's no further comments on item 2. I'm going to call it to an end, and then we'll move to item 3, if that's possible. And I'll just continue where I was. So as municipal leaders, we have the opportunity, and as a business owner in a different township, this last week, I did my diligence as a business owner, not as a community leader, but as a business owner, and looked at vaccination rates, looked at all of the requirements by the provincial government that were out there, and we far exceeded any of the stage 1 guidelines. And in fact, we are into stage 2 short of the 20% vaccination rate, which to my understanding is between 7 and 8% at this point. So I put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard and sent the mayor of Brockville a letter asking him to support his small businesses and demand that the province consider regionally moving into stage 2, directly into stage 2 at the earliest possible date, showing support for small businesses. There isn't much that municipal government can do other than pass a motion and demand that we get to those stages at the earliest possible date. I know as of today's date, we have 3 local cases, no new cases in the last 4 or 5 days, but 3 cases total in the entire Leeds Grenville Lanark Health Unit area. For 7 continuous days, we've been well below 1,000 case numbers. The positivity rate's 2.8%. Like, you want to go on and on. We're ready for stage 2, which is what I indicated in the letter that I wrote to the mayor of Brockville. I mailed it to our MPP. I mailed it to the small business minister, to the health unit, to Dr. Stewart, and to the premier. Received answers from them all except from Mr. Clark's office, MPP Clark's office, and all wishing and saying that my industry was ready to reopen safely at the earliest possible convenience. So what I like to see us do here in Edwardsburg Cardinal, if it's the will of this committee and the will of the council, is to ask staff to write a letter to those same governing bodies, asking us to move towards stage 2 faster than 21 days after June 11th, and get our small businesses right here in Edwardsburg Cardinal back open. They moved it 3 days for stage 1 this week, and I know 3 days doesn't seem like a lot, but if you're a restaurant owner being open on July 2nd and having a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and not opening on the Monday as your first day, but actually being able to open on the Friday, is an enormous help. And I know it seems like it's only 3 days, but those 3 days to a small business owner right now, you're in the desert looking for a drink of water. those 3 days could make or break every single business out there. So I'm hopeful that committee will consider, the request, and I'd like to open it for further discussion on ways that, or if there's a will for a regional reopening demand and maybe a quicker demand for a move to stage 2 a little quicker. So I haven't started around the table, so I'll start maybe with Councillor Steve this time.
Well, first of all, the chair, you said that you replied to everyone, you got a response. What was their response? Were they happy that we could open it on phase 2? Or are we gonna go to phase 1 starting June 11th, like he announced today?
No, when I received responses, they were for the planned reopening, which was the 14th. And then that while I spoke in my industry, which is personal services, and they continued to add that stage 2 would be followed at a minimum of 21 days. Everybody seems to think that everything's going to open in 21 days from the 11th. That's not necessarily true unless people get the double vaccination. So unless we hit 20% fully vaccinated, none of section 2 actually happens. So the response is, Dr. Stewart, I can email staff the response and the letter, and you can read the responses if you'd like. My apology for not including them. It wasn't my intention to actually discuss it because it was my small business and it was actually Brockville, but I'm more than happy to email and make it part of the record as well. But certainly in support of every measure that we have in place. Dr. Stewart especially spoke to the measures that we had in place and said that there's no doubt that we would be ready when we could reopen safe. We would be ready, and with the standards we had in place, we'd be able to safely open it at the earliest convenience.
Stage 2.
The problem would be that the province will move back. Yeah.
Not necessarily stage 2, though, I don't think.
We're stage 2 and stage 3. We're a mix for my business, but I'm not asking for my business. I'm thinking more for the restaurants, the tourist operations that are being held back right here in our township. So, did you have more?
No, I'm good.
To be quite truthful, I'm just a little confused, Deputy Mayor. Are you bringing this up as a motion to follow through with the COVID survey?
No,
or are you sort of ahead of yourself and this should be brought up under number 7?
No. I think I brought it up for discussion.
Okay.
And if I was hopeful out of the discussion may come a recommendation, but I brought it up for a discussion for the committee to see where it went. I mean, if I'm the only one that feels that way, then obviously there'd be no need for this committee to ask staff to put pen to paper and have us support our small businesses. If they think that the reopening plan the province has is great, then by all means, then we don't need to move anything further.
Well, just to clarify your question or your explanation, I think we should do anything that we possibly can to get our businesses open.
Do you want to speak further now or after?
Well, I see where we are on the agenda here. As I see it, we're at item 6B3.
Yep.
And so we're talking about a reopening discussion. And I see that as a response to the survey as well as a separate issue. So I don't have any problem supporting, I don't see any point in asking staff to duplicate the work that's already been done. You've already put some thoughts in writing that center around the concept of getting the province open sooner than 21 days after June the 11th, which is the new June the 14th, right? You've already put some thoughts to that issue. Why can't we take whatever, and I haven't seen what you put in writing, but why can't we take that basic material and work with it?
Well, and I mean, I'm happy to read it, but the letter that I wrote is a personal letter.
Yeah, but it can be broadened out generically, so I don't want to hear the personal letter.
Right.
I want to know how it can be broadened out generically to include and reflect the needs of all of our small businesses.
Well, I think if I got to the operative portion of it, which would be asking, Minister Clark, Dr. Stewart, and all members of the Ontario government, that I ask that they support myself and fellow backbone of Ontario small businesses, their owners, and many employees, by allowing all industry, all small business to open immediately. Well, the rest isn't words that I would use as a leader. So
no, but you indicated as well, though, in your talk that you felt that the thrust of it should be that this region would open.
Yes.
So that was the I took to be the main thrust of your discussion, because you had done all of the statistical background to show that this region is basically ready.
Yes.
So when I'm
72% vaccinated.
Yeah, exactly. So my question, and I have no idea of where this requirement of 21 days after step one, we have to wait 21 days after step one and get the 20%,
70%, which I don't
70
know we've
first dose, 22nd dose.
I don't think we have achieved 70% province-wide. Do you know that one?
Yeah.
I think we have province-wide.
We do have
at this point.
Yeah.
In Ontario, we have.
Yeah, so
Canada-wide, we haven't, but we haven't hit the 20% yet. We're
Yes.
well below the 20%.
So my question is, how do we proceed here tonight? Because we don't have something in front of us that we can actually look at. I mean, we could call a 10-minute break and take what you've got there and massage it a little bit. If you wanted to ask this committee to make a recommendation, or alternatively, you could ask the committee to endorse the concepts of getting the small business, the small business industry in this region, Leeds, Lanark, Leeds, and Grenville, open as soon as possible after, or into step one, into step two, as soon as possible after June 11th. And I mean, we could somehow endorse those concepts, and then maybe this, I would leave it up to you to take that operative clause and massage it so that it reflects those concepts.
If the concept was left to me, the demand would be immediate.
Yeah, I know, but that's not gonna happen, so why don't we just push?
Well,
Let them know that there's push out here.
There's support, for sure.
Yeah.
I think the answer you'll get back is absolutely, we agree with that. That's why we're waiting 3 weeks, and we'll reassess in 3 weeks. But for me, even if it's 3 days sooner than the 3 weeks, it's good. So
I know, but are you prepared? I'm just trying to protect my backside here too. I mean, I don't want to be responsible for us opening too soon and going into another shutdown. There's always that risk.
Absolutely.
Through the chair, I think it was said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? So, it's a matter of what does that shot look like as far as this conversation goes. And even if you had to say, we'd like to do a regional approach where, we'll help to put some sort of proactive campaign so we can get ourselves into the stage 2 criteria at least. Once we've achieved that, we'd like to then execute that and see what they say to it. I think there's no harm in asking. Just gotta, I think you're best to try and adhere to the rules they have out there, which is this 1, 2, and 3 stage approach, unfortunately. But,
Fair comments. Yeah, I mean, it's not like they haven't thought out their plan. I just think that they're, like, from a personal standpoint, I think they're very, especially in our region, we're well ahead and we're being held back by other areas.
And we're executing well. Like when my 20-year-olds became available for the first shot vaccine, you know, we registered with the local pharmacy, and 24 hours later, they had their vaccines in their arms. So, you know, we're not waiting until June, like was if we had to go to Ottawa, that was what it was gonna be, is June 29th for their date.
Right.
You know, so.
One of the reasons that I asked for this was I had read a CTV article, and it was statistical data from Toronto. And it was that in the age group 80 and above, that only 73% of eligible recipients had received a vaccine.
80 and above.
80 and above had received one dose, and the number was 73%. So that's not looking good.
No.
For achieving 20% anytime soon, when you're not really vaccinating. You're starting to vaccinate those people now, but you can't reopen until it's 3 weeks after you've hit the 20% threshold. So while it may sound great, unless we hit 20% on the 11th, we're still held to when we hit that number, right? And that's the key for me. So
That's our provincial government.
absolutely, I'm not debating that. I'm asking that
our shots are so disorganized. I mean, I was talking to a gentleman yesterday, he's 85 and 83, and they got their first shot, and they can't get their second shot until August. And his 60-year-old daughter got her second shot in Kingston yesterday.
No, but what he's telling you is wrong. He can get his second shot now.
He cannot get in.
Yes, he can. He just has to work at it.
Well, he tried, and he got so frustrated, he's just gonna take the date they got.
Try more than one place.
Frustration is not an excuse
Well,
for getting
I'm
an
sorry.
appointment.
It's very, very disorganized of when you get the shot and when you can't. I tried right off the bat, and I still can't get my second shot.
yeah, I can't.
And I'm booked till August, and I can't get it.
I missed by a
Now, I'm
date.
still fighting.
Mine was April 20th. If I was April 19th, I could, but there's no date set because I was April 20th, and anyone who received it April 20th and on is still.
Anyway, we can go around this thing forever.
Right.
The point is, how do we action?
And is there a will? Is there a will?
Well, I think there's a will to signal to the provincial government that you know, that we would like to move forward on a regional basis a little bit quicker than the 20%, the 20%, how shall I say, the 20% take-up rate was reached. I don't know where the 20% came from, and I don't know where the 21-day thing came from. I mean, here's the silliness of it. We were told right from the beginning that the gestation period here was 14 days, right? That 14 days was ingrained right from the very beginning. If you've been exposed to it and you haven't contracted it and showing symptoms within 14 days, you're clean. Well, where did 21 days come from all of a sudden?
So 21 days, I can answer that one. 21 days is the science table's recommendation for post-vaccination for the body's immune response to be at the peak, to give you the highest rate possible of immunity defense.
Yes, that's the peak. But we also know that from the trials, we know that one shot gives you something like 97% efficacy.
I think it's up to 85.
But that was before the new strain hit.
Yes.
Yes, but we also know that these vaccines now, they've got enough science that indicates that the vaccines are effective with the strains. So, I mean, I'm not a scientist and I'm not sitting at the table and I don't have all the information that they have. But so the one thing that I can focus on is that this region is different than Toronto. I can focus on that. And I can get really focused on that.
Right. And I mean, that to me is at the crux, and not just the region, but I'm talking Edwardsburg Cardinal. I mean, I want to support our local hardware store so people can get back in there at a 50% capacity. I want to, you know.
That's happening. That happens on the 11th.
25,
15%.
Yeah. They're essential, so it'll be 25%, but we can get them to 50% if we can get to stage 2.
Hardware stores are essential. They're all shut down. Curbside.
Curbside only.
Oh, they're not considered essential, okay.
Inside, yeah.
So then they're only able to be open at 15% then?
Yeah,
once
but they're in business. I can go to Home Hardware, and as long as I walk to the door, tell the girl what I want, bang, it's right there. So it's not the best, but they're scoping. But that's not the issue. The issue is how soon can we get people through the doors in this region? That's the issue, to me.
Yeah, well, to me, ultimately, it ends up getting us back to a return to where, what we were talking about before is people, like, ultimately, the goal for me would be people off CRB and everybody back to work. The
Well,
sooner the better.
You're not gonna get people off CRB because there's a second agenda there, and that's,
Yeah, I know Connor had his, you're not gonna know, okay, so, John?
Well,
I'm sorry.
the whole point of it is for us here in this township, we've got a high uptake of vaccination. We meet the numbers. As far as 20%, we're gonna meet that in very short order because I get mine on the 30th, like everybody bumped in. Like otherwise having a hard uptake, we had no hard uptake. I was 5 minutes getting an appointment. So we're gonna meet the 20%, and I think what's frustrating everybody, and it's not just in our township, it's all across the province. We're being told, here's a metric that we're gonna go with. We hit that metric, but then no, we're gonna do this other metric here now. Now we're gonna do this, we want this vaccine, and we want this, and we want 21 days, and we're not gonna move from that 21 days regardless, because the big fear, oh, we're going to get a fourth wave, we'll open up. Well, it's a totally different metrics now. When we opened it up before, nobody was vaccinated. Now, even if you just got 60% vaccination, you've got a big majority out. Like,
and you know,
and even the ones that get it, when you're vaccinated, what is it, 1% ends up going to the hospital. You may be contracted and you test positive, but you're not really, it doesn't really put you down. You got a mild flu, basically. So like they got to get back to a regional localization. Their argument was before, like people from Toronto could come down here and contaminate down here. Well, we're highly vaccinated down here. They're not going to contaminate. Yes, there may be some come down out of another region, but the regions that they let open up, that we met these criteria, why do we wait 21 days? Open up. We've met the criteria. You know the vaccines work. Open up.
It's all the more reason to put out there and say officially as an official ask. You know, we want to jump right to phase 2 right away, and put the request out there and say, you know, we will be at or close to that percentage by, I don't know where we're at right now, but I feel we're getting close already as well. You know, I can't predict that, but you know, I think we just have to go to stage 2 because we're well on the way to getting there anyways. So save ourselves the 21 days plus.
In my opinion, lane break, the way they pick essential and non-essential things that you can sell and you can't sell and you can do this, like it's nonsense. You can win. I can win and buy a cat toy for my cat to play with, but I can't win and buy my granddaughter new running shoes that she needs. It's essential for the cat to have a toy, but my granddaughter go her toe out through the end of her running shoe, but I can't go and buy her another pair of running shoes. Like it's ridiculous.
Mr. Chairman, first point,
Reel it in for me.
we can talk here all night, but you know what? Remember that the council doesn't meet until I think it's the 25th of June. And believe me, by the time we get to the 25th of June, the province is going to be looking quite a bit different than even it's going to look on Friday morning. Because first of all, the new Chief Medical Officer of Health takes this office, I think, today. He's now shadowing Dr. Williams. Dr. Williams maintains his appointment until September, but the new guy comes into play today. I think you're going to see new recommendations going forward to the cabinet. I think you're going to see the cabinet moving a lot faster than they moved. Today was the first indication that they're prepared to loosen up. You know, we can flap our wings here all we want, but before we can get a motion before council, this thing is going to be a lot different than it is right now. Now, sending letters, I mean, you can send a letter over the signature of the mayor, You can send it, but you can't send a letter from council unless it is a council resolution. So, I mean, I'm prepared to send a letter as the mayor, but that just puts the mayor on record like that. And theoretically, the mayor speaks for council, but not in the case of a matter like this where there's no resolution to support it.
Call an emergency meeting here right after this meeting.
A committee recommendation couldn't help to, I mean, just that's backing, I don't know.
Well, the recommendation from this committee would be to council,
Yeah.
you know, and that's
The council doesn't deal with it until the 25th.
the council doesn't deal with it unless there's a special meeting called to deal with it. Or for some other purpose, and it goes on to a special agenda.
Yeah, we have to give notice of a special council, right?
Yeah, correct.
Except for an emergency situation.
Well, or, you know, business is business. Okay, how do you want to do with it, Mr. Chair? Up to you.
I'm looking for some recommendations from the committee, from here on.
Well, I think you got it. You've got consensus around trying to get something done on a regional basis. And you got consensus about trying to get something done sooner than waiting till these two, I'm not gonna call them arbitrary, these two metrics are fully realized.
So.
Two metrics being the 21 day and the 20%.
So then if a letter went out under the, suggested that the letter go out under then, because the quickest way possible to get anything dealt with would be to go out under the mayor's signature.
Well, I mean, it's gonna have the same effect as it has when you put your hand in a pail of water and take it out. But I mean, at least it's on the record. And the way the government looks at these, by the way, just so you know, we've got 26 pieces of paper saying this and 42 saying that. That's the way they look at it.
Yeah.
And you know, the letter goes to the Minister of Municipal Affairs, Minister of Municipal Affairs says, well, Mr. Premier, I've got 226 motions saying this and 300 saying that. That's the way they look at it.
Sure. But at least we put one of them forward.
At least we got one forward.
And I think as going back to where we began this, as municipal council and as municipal committees, we really don't have a lot of power with this. And the one thing that we do have is a voice. And I guess it was up to me that we would use that voice. How we get to use it and the earliest convenience, I'm not exactly sure procedurally how we do that. So I need some help from those that have lots of experience around the table to guide me.
Sit down with the mayor and draft a letter and send it in.
Draft it out, get the mayor to sign it.
Well, you've got the basic thing there.
Yeah, I can
It's
have
easy
it
to work
to you
it out.
tomorrow, so.
It's easy to work it out.
Okay, so is that okay committee wise then, that's clear?
And all members of council are here, so I'm sending this letter out with the blessings of council and the committee, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, all right.
Okay, good, thank you for the good discussion, and it was a little longer than I hoped, but very much needed and very supportive of so many hurting businesses here in Edwardsburg Cardinals. That's fantastic. So there is item C, which is recreation. Is there a recreation item? No? Okay, so then I can skip C. Yes, and move directly on to.
Sorry, Mr. Chair,
Sorry, Greg.
for recreation, is there, anecdotally, I've heard that the pool is going to be open, and will the township be running summer programs like day camp this year? Has a decision been made on that?
Yes.
Do you just
By all means, go ahead.
you want me to just speak to it? So, yes, I think if you haven't seen the CAO's latest report, I believe as of this week, the pools have been cleaned and are being filled. And if they aren't still being filled, they're probably already filled. The director of, what's Mike's title? Sorry, facilities manager indicated that they had secured training for our swim instructors to get the certifications that they needed the last 2 weeks of June, so that we'll be able to open in July with a full complement of lessons and programs.
Great, thank you.
And day camp as well. I know that wasn't really part, but Councillor Cameron reminded me that day camp's part of that as well.
Great, thank you.
But Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think, I mean, the CAO's report's over a week old. I think we should give them a chance to just
Update?
Yeah, give us an update, because we're just putting plans in place. Those plans are still subject to health unit approval, are they not?
Correct, through the chair, they naturally are subject to the health unit guidelines to prevent opening, but as it is right now, we're making those plans in place to have the lifeguards and instructors in place, and should be able to, as long as we're permitted to, we should be operating 3 sessions of swimming lessons, and in between the second and third session, there will be a 1-week course where we'll offer the bronze medallion and bronze cross for those students that are requiring that, so that hopefully we'll be in a better position in the coming years with respect to retaining lifeguards and instructors. So very similar with respect to the day camps. The plan is once again 2-week programs. I want to say it starts July 2nd, I believe is the start date, and then there'll be a 1-week break in that first week of August where there will not be any day camp, but that's when we'll be running that bronze cross and bronze medallion, and then the third session, swimming session, will coincide with the third session of day camp. So I think we're in pretty good position. Hopefully we'll have an inspection on one of the pools done later this week, and then the other pool inspected the following week.
The pools look fantastic with the cement work that's been fixed and the cleaning that's been done. It's quite a transformation. Councillor Cameron.
Yes, just a question through you to the CAO.
Sure.
Regarding the day camps, why are we only holding the day camps in Johnstown?
Through the chair, we have only been holding the day camps in Johnstown for I'm going to say the past 3, 4, maybe.
Oh, is that correct?
Maybe,
I thought they were
maybe longer. The first time we operated the day camps, I believe there was one based out of Johnstown and one based out of Cardinal. However, there was not the registration received in Cardinal, and it moved to just the day camps running out of Johnstown. And that's been the case for I want to say 4 years.
Okay, my apology. I didn't realize that. Okay, the rest I'll do under number 7. Thank you.
So just to add, going back to where Greg was, looking at the reopening roadmap again, and outdoor pools is in a stage 1, but outdoor training is limited to up to 10 people. So I would make the assumption that outdoor pools for lessons and things like that would have capacity regulations until stage 2 was fully open. Is that?
So through the chair, we do anticipate that there will be some limitations, and we're working with the local health unit to try to work through some of those items.
So the sooner we get into each stage, the more likelihood we are to have fuller capacity programs.
That would be a fair assessment.
Okay. So Greg, good.
That's good. And just for historical facts for Councillor Cameron, for many years, the South Edwardsburg Recreation Association actually hosted the day camp and supported that, but it because of the evolution, the township took it over many years ago. But it originally was started by the South Edwardsburg Recreation Association with support of the township. So that's why it's been so long in Johnstown.
Thank you, Mr. Mudler.
All right, so no further recreation. So now we're gonna move on to the community safety and well-being plan. I think, I'll start with Wendy, and do you wanna, or CAO, Wendy's looking at you, so. Who up there wants to speak? I was gonna put the mayor on the spot and ask him if he wanted to start, but I'll ask staff first, and then we'll come back.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just give a brief introduction, just some of the technical aspects. So the Police Services Act requires that all municipalities in Ontario prepare and adopt a community safety wellbeing plan by July 1st, 2021. Naturally, with the pandemic, it has probably impacted the development of the plans, and through discussion amongst the CAOs and I believe the mayors in the county, it was decided or agreed upon that the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville would sort of take a coordination role for the town of Prescott and the lower tier municipalities in getting the plan together and prescribed by legislation in the time frame of July 1st, 2021. So basically, the plan is in front of you tonight for sort of review and recommendation. And I just wanted to touch on the financial considerations. So the cost, the approximate cost to develop this plan was about $38,000, and our portion was based on the 2016 census population. So our shared estimate for this plan is around $3,600. So I'm sure that there's been some additional discussion at the county level, and maybe the mayor would like to speak a little bit more with respect to the June 2nd review of the draft plan.
Can I ask one question before you go into that? Is that okay? So I'm looking for the recommendation, sorry. But what we're doing is just approving the plan tonight. We're not talking about, or we're not being asked how it's implemented or how the implementation is being funded, or how long it's going to take to be implemented or funded. We're just being asked to approve the plan because of the July deadline.
Through the chair, that is correct. I think that the implementation plan will take much further discussion.
Okay, cool. So now it's your turn.
Okay, so first of all, to the members of the committee that were not part of the discussion, the county convened a session last week with the authors of this plan and all members of county council, which was all the mayors that commissioned the plan, and invited all of the councillors from all of the townships to sit in on that presentation so that they would be familiar with the background to the plan, the role that the plan is going to play, and the content of the plan. So at this point, we're being asked, and the recommendation is that this committee would recommend that council approves the community safety and well-being plan as presented, and direct staff to post the plan on the website and have printed copies available. So we'd be recommending that to council, and council would do that on the 25th. Now then comes the question of how does this plan get implemented? And one of the things that came out for sure during the presentation of the plan at the county council special meeting was that most of the resources that have been identified to provide the funds to implement this plan reside in the various programs that the United Counties already operates. And it's quite clear that although these plans are supposed to be municipal plans at the lower tier level, we don't have the finances or the mechanisms to deliver on the plan. So what is probably going to happen, and I sensed it developing as a consensus without much resistance during the meeting, that the mayors will turn to county and say, you're going to be responsible for implementing this plan on our behalf. And now, where there are already a lot of existing dollars being put into some of the risks that are identified here, and many of the programs that the counties already delivers are actually identified here. So, I mean, I don't think it's going to be a big deal to implement this plan, but Mayor Malanka has it absolutely correct. What this act has done is that this act has thrown onto the municipalities a job which we are not mandated to do under the Municipal Act, and we have no financing to deal with under our municipal tax system. So we're going to have to throw this back to county. So that just provides my insights as to where we are with this. The big thing is that as of right now, all we're being asked to do is have a plan in place. There's no question in my mind that 6 months or 12 months or after the next provincial election, somebody will be saying to us, oh, this plan that you have, this community safety and well-being plan, we'd like to have a report on how you're implementing the plan. Somebody will be asking, depending on the result of the election. We'll have to provide an answer.
So how do you adopt a plan that you can't fund and you can't execute on and say we're okay to adopt it? I'm missing something here, I guess, that's critical to this whole thing.
No, you're not.
No, not really. Okay.
Now you understand how it works.
I think it's the requirement by the province to have a plan.
In place.
But not, I don't think there's a requirement to fund it, and I don't think that there's a requirement to implement it at this time.
So we will start our 20-year plan to work on it?
Am I correct in thinking that?
Well, but here's the thing, and in a previous life, we did this. The essence of the plan, as I see it, is that we've got so many resources that we're putting to different problems, but there's a perception that there's no intermingling that benefits the individual. I don't agree with that perception, but I do know that in a previous life, we had a mechanism where we brought many different programs together to focus on an individual family that we knew in our community was having trouble. You know, the husband was unemployed, the kids were creating problems in school, there was a problem with nutrition, there was maybe a problem with medication. We would bring what we called the committee together, and the school principal was there, and we would say, okay, what can you do for them? What can you do for them? What can you do for them? And who's going to take the lead here? And we would assign a lead. We would assign a lead to that family, and we would focus on that family. And it was amazing what you could do when you pulled everybody together. The county already does a lot of that, and they're well positioned to continue to do more. And to my way of thinking, this plan is already functioning in a place like the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville. It may not be functioning in Toronto, and it may not be functioning in Peel, but I think it functions very well here. And I'll give you an example. One of the places in here, they talk about transportation.
Yeah.
And as you know, there's already a lot of talk about these pilot studies that are going to go forward. Well, what people don't know is that 3 years ago, the United Counties put in place a plan. We funded it. We found $150,000 of county money. And we said to the staff, if there's a family that needs a car to get to work, so that they can get off of workfare and they can get off the system, buy them a car. And we've bought 5 cars and we've given them, no, we didn't give them to them. We gave them a loan for 5 cars and they pay back the loan at $200 a month interest free. And we got a report from one of our staff members, a family of 3, I think it was, or 5, living together in the same house, 1 car. And we increased the family revenue by like 500%. Because the father was able to get to work, the mother was able to get to work, and one of the kids was able to get to work. And the amount of revenue that we were able to bring into that household just by buying that 1 car more than justified the amount of the loan. And the loan was an interest-free loan, they'll pay it back. We don't buy new cars, we just get them transportation. That's part of the things that we can do and we are doing. So I don't worry too much, Chris, about implementation because I think it's happening.
Councillor Cameron, you're next.
Yes, and it was made very, very clear at the special meeting that even though this plan, we can support the recommendation we see in front of us, this plan can be totally changed at any time. So that codicil is there.
Anyone else want to, Councillor Hunter?
Well, I think I sat through it. First 40 minutes of introduction, the ones that were doing it, I think was a boring waste of time with them. Until they finally got what we're supposed to hear.
You mean the water heater story wasn't interesting?
No, not really interested. 42 minutes out, the waste of time when we finally get into what we're.
Let's move on.
Let's move on. I agree with the mayor. Like, as far as this plan goes, from what I can see, I think a lot of excellent work done in it, well laid out. Over the years on council here and dealing with counties, I think it's something counties have been doing for 12 years or more, bringing agencies together. And United Way working in there doing a lot of it. And I think that was explained in it too. That a lot of people think United Way just raises money and hands it out to everybody, and that's not really what they do. They have a coordination effort and they pick how they do it and stuff. So I think I'm in favor of supporting the plan, like the implementation. When it comes to that part, there may be a lot of discussion when it comes to that.
I think so. Supporting the plan.
July 1st is the deadline, so.
Let's meet the deadline.
All right, so did somebody else?
No, it's just part of our OPP. We had to get this ready for the OPP.
No. It's a requirement under the Police Services Act, the new Police Services Act.
Okay, it's not under our OPP.
It's not under Police Services. Okay, so unless anybody else wants to comment, this does come with a recommendation.
I think it's.
So let me get there. So the committee recommends that council approve the community safety and well-being plan as presented and direct staff to post the plan on the website and have a printed copy available for review at the municipal office. So if there's no further discussion, I need a mover and a seconder.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Cameron, seconded by Councillor Hunter. No further discussion. Going once, going twice, sold. Then I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
You can't vote. It's either yea or nay.
Like I said, I mean, I hear all the experts and I trust them for sure.
All right.
It's
So
just
you
but it's-
so unanimous.
What it convinces us possibly to not worry about it, but anyway.
So unanimous then. All right, moving on to number 7, which is inquiries and notices of motion. Does anyone have inquiries or notices of motion? Councillor Cameron, you're first.
Yes, thank you. Just through the chair to the staff. Inquiry regarding, I've had several, to be quite truthful, complaints about a speed limit on coming into Cardinal from the railway bridge into the village, that seems to have been an increase it was actually mentioned trucks, the farmers trucks entering the village at a considerable rate of speed. And I know it's a county road, if we could perhaps remind counties that the speed limit is 50 through there. Hopefully the OPP can do something about it. Also,
Hold for 1 sec. Are you asking for the speed counters to go up?
well, that would be nice. No, I'm just asking staff to notify counties that we have a concern about speed limits coming into the village on County Road 21.
Or the limits or the execution of those speeds.
22.
I'm sorry, 22, yes.
22 south, right?
Shanley Road,
Yes.
yes.
21 also.
So do you have what you need?
Through the chair, that's the same area that we placed the speed devices up several times, and naturally there's a small percentage where it's high, but we'll certainly pass that information on to the counties and
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have a second one?
I have two more, to be quite careful. The second one is, I was notified on the weekend by one of the divers at the dive site at the Conestoga that they suspect that there is a skunk perhaps in the area or under the change partition dais that's there. So they just wanted that we know about that. And now does our wildlife man, John Courtney, does he get involved in things like that, or?
Staff.
I'm not,
situation.
I really don't think so.
we're not going to be in the trouble.
The rescue unit of the fire department?
You know, so anyway, that is out there. And also my final complaint, or not, it's not a complaint, but I've also had some feedback regarding Wednesdays. A lot of garbage is being put out on Wednesdays instead of Thursdays in the village of Cardinal. And of course, we have had in the past our bylaw officer talking to people about that, and it seems to have escalated just a little bit.
Is that people sleeping in?
Pardon?
Is that people wanting to sleep in on Thursday?
Either that or they're not home on Thursday. I'm really not sure which it is, but when it's out on Wednesday at noon, especially now with the warm weather coming and the chances of vermin and things like that around, I think perhaps it should maybe just be spot checked.
Okay.
And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Dillawa?
Yes, like an update, I don't know if it's an update, but is there any to do the chair to the CEO? When the docks will be in down in Cardinal?
So through the chair, we're certainly working on a concept this week that we want to test out to see if we can get a couple of docks in.
So it's this week to be in?
So through the chair, no guarantees, but the hope is that the concept will work and we'll be able to get some of them in.
But no guarantees.
I am not guaranteeing at this stage, but
we got lots of water.
We're going to work through that.
Yeah, the water's risen considerably this week from what I'd say. My dog's
Okay,
actually.
I just hope we get the docks in to go hand in hand with our opening up our waterfront
Through the chair, we want everything in place.
Yeah.
to have-
Oh, good, thank you so much.
Anybody
for that.
else?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, were you done, sorry?
Yes.
Yes.
So, Mr. Chair, I'm gonna bring this up, because I don't want the issue to go unnoticed and unaddressed. So, very first thing, I'd like to thank the committee for, supporting our official plan at our discussion that we had earlier this evening, where we were asked, basically, to change our official plan by doing a zoning change to accommodate a residential use in what is clearly designated as an expansion of our industrial area. So I'd like to thank the committee for that. As I recall, it was unanimous. But, Mr. Chairman, I would like to suggest to you, and through you to the staff, that we've got to come to grips with the concept that we will not allow future development on the north end of Frederick Street. Now, there are existing homes there, and I can't remember the last number on Frederick Street where there's a house, but there's a fair density of homes right up to a certain point, and I think it's Ferngruber. And then there's a large space to the last house, south of the railroad track. Now, yes, there are two beyond the railroad track. Forget about them for the minute. All of these houses on Frederick Street are going to end up at some point being non-conforming to the industrial uses in that area. And the last thing that we want to do is have to deal with more residential development on that strip. So I say to staff, we have to put in place some sort of a mechanism, a temporary zoning bylaw restriction on the issuance of building permits on those residential lots. Now, this is something that we had discussed earlier, a couple of times actually, and it's never been action. And my understanding is that if somebody walks through that door tomorrow on one of those lots that's on Frederick Street, owns it, that we are obligated to give them a building permit because it is a recognized use in that area. I'm not talking about the area that's already designated for industrial expansion. I'm not talking about that area. I'm talking about far south of that. So I would hope that, Mr. Chairman, that we can get that flagged as an issue and through the staff, get that communicated to the planner so that the planner can bring forward something to council. The planner and the staff can bring forward some sort of a temporary zoning restriction to prevent further residential development.
So, no, I'm not done yet with that one. You're asking staff for.
Bring something forward.
So we need committee direction to do that one. So how?
Well, I have a question about what he was saying, if you want further discussion about it.
Yeah, I think well, sure.
So at the port, I believe those cottages were owned by the port. You're talking about freeholders of the land on Frederick Street that you want to restrict building permits for things like sheds or garages or additions to their homes?
No, I didn't say that at all. I talked about new residential development.
Lots that haven't been built on.
Lots that haven't been built on.
I can see that, but I think you indicated that if people come in, you don't want them to be issued building permits.
For new residential development.
Okay, so that needs to be clarified because if you're gonna have a building permit for a lot of things.
Yeah.
You just don't want to.
I just don't want any more houses being built there.
Okay.
And I don't think we do. Don't think the township does. And a few years ago, we put in place a temporary zoning order in Cardinal to prevent
Interim control bylaw.
an interim control bylaw to prevent the lower levels of buildings being converted to residential use. We put that interim control bylaw in place. We had a year to do it. There's no reason we can't have an interim control bylaw on Frederick Street. And I think we need it. Because, I mean, there's tremendous, don't have to tell you what the pressures are right now, residential.
Right. So, okay, so what do you, Dave, what do you see, what do you need then to, you get the gist of the ask? What do you need from committee to move that ask forward?
We'll look to bring a report back at the next meeting that looks at some control measures.
So how long will it take for that report? Do you want it to come back here, or do you want it to come back to a different committee sooner? I mean, if you're talking interim control bylaw, then time is of the essence.
Well, through you to the staff, do we have any other mechanisms if you get an application tomorrow?
Through the chair, no.
There's your answer.
So you want it at the next possible committee that staff could have. How long do you think it'll take for that report?
I don't want to speak on that because we'll have to touch base with the.
So let me put it this way, so.
We can get it onto the.
Whatever
the
committee as
next,
soon as possible.
Agenda possible.
Yeah, okay. Doesn't need to be this committee then, move it to whatever.
If that's the feeling, we'll try to get it on as soon as possible.
Good.
We're all in favor of it. Very brief one.
Yeah. And I'd invite members of the committee, Mr. Chairman, to take a drive on Frederick Street, take a look at it.
Yeah, if you never have, for sure.
Yeah, we don't stop it now.
Lots of farmland.
Well, on the west side of the road, it's no longer farmland. I mean, really, it's industrial land on the west side of the road. That 66 acres is.
Being used. as
Yeah,
farmland,
that's what I mean.
but it's not farmland.
It's still being cropped.
Okay, so, have I satisfied all the inquiries?
Yep.
Connor? Greg? Nobody? Good. So,
And I'm just gonna put it, you know, I don't go on Facebook that often, but I had a bunch of messages yesterday and I don't know how I became, anyways, a few people asked me. So I guess the first question would be, is there conversation happening soon about the ward system being changed? I guess is the question that I would ask. Sounds like they think there's something happening this month, and is there a meeting going on soon that's going to talk about that? And I must confess, I didn't look any deeper than the text that I got from that, so I don't know anything about it.
So I'll direct that back to CAO or Wendy, whichever wants to. Where are we at with Chris's inquiry as far as the ward system?
Mr. Chair, there will be a bylaw coming forward to the June council meeting with respect to that. That would look to do away with the ward system.
Yep, that's on the June 25th meeting?
That would be a bylaw at the June 25th, or sorry, June 28th. I keep saying June 25th. For some reason, it's in my mind. It's June 28th.
My fault.
June 28th.
That's my fault.
June 28th.
And the process, just describe the process after the 25th. 8th. It's plain in mind now.
Yeah, sorry, it's I wasn't anticipating that inquiry. Maybe I'll be mean and put the clerk on to see if she can respond to that timeline once that bylaw comes to council on June 28th. I believe there's a 15-day time period after that.
She's ready to speak, Dave.
Yes, through the chair, the township must provide public notice 15 days after passage of the bylaw to dissolve the ward system, and then allow for another 45-day appeal period, at which time anyone can appeal to LPAT.
Well, they can appeal to council too.
It's an appeal process officially through LPAT.
Oh, good.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, and yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, I got the feeling that
Council
there'll
on
be appealing
25th.
at council as well.
Yeah, council on 28th,
28th, on the 28th, not 25th.
Connor.
But you are correct, Facebook pages are flying.
Oh, yeah, well, and like I said, I have a bunch of personal messages as well, like, you know,
What's it-
which I never get, so.
How come I'm dying?
Just discuss it after.
Is there some background about this? This is the first I'm hearing about it in an official capacity.
regular council meeting.
I think if you review the minutes from previous meetings dating back as far as February, there's been lots of open discussion. Councillor Hunter.
Just two lines, just so I know what I'm hearing.
Councillor Hunter brought a motion forward, or and through inquiries and notices of motion, he raised a notice back in February that he would be bringing a motion forward for the dissolving of the ward system and going back to a general election. At the May meeting, there was a presentation by staff on both positives and negatives for both sides of that argument as an information item to a committee. And at the next council discussion, we had a vote, a discussion and a resolution put forward for that motion, and then we will bring it forward in bylaw form. It passed 3-2, and will be brought forward for bylaw at the June 28th meeting. Yes.
So I just want to say on record, while this is being recorded, I don't think this is the best time to do this during a pandemic when there's only 5 people representing all of the township. And for someone like me who's, I have a good pulse on things, to not hear about it, I don't think that's going to go over well. This might be something we should postpone for another couple of years.
Sorry,
just that seems very sudden. I think there's representation required.
I don't want to rehash the debate.
No, but it shouldn't be just put the lid back on either. That's why people are upset, I think.
Well, are people upset? Wow, you're right, we shouldn't rehash.
Yeah, I'm not rehashing the debate. The point is taken, the comments are taken.
I don't know what side I'm on, but I'm upset that I haven't heard about it. And I think I have a pretty good idea of what goes on in parts of the township. And if we take ward system out, that's not good for
we're not here
other
for
parts of
debate
the township.
Well, we're not here for the debate on that. It's been presented at 3 different points now. The discussions happened. It'll happen again on the 28th, and you're more than welcome to listen in. And after that discussion, if it passes, you know, put an appeal to it, or
we have a public meeting 15 days after.
Right. So, you know, there's lots of mechanism after, and we don't know yet that the bylaw will actually even pass on the 28th until it does pass. So
This seems ripping a system down.
Point taken.
It's not the best time to do it.
It's not
And if it's a money thing, then that's not a good enough excuse for representation.
Connor, we're not debating it tonight.
No, making my points known while it's still being recorded.
He's getting his shots in.
You're getting your shots in for sure. And I hear them, but you're walking the line of point of order, that's all. All right, so further.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
We have a hand raised.
Greg, sorry,
Pretty soon, Mr. Chair, I'm going to take this personally. No, I'm only kidding. Just a question in regards to our proposed bylaws. I know we're waiting to have the public meeting on them, and given what we're going through, I duly respect that. But will we try to put together a frequently asked questions prior to that public meeting so that the public may have some of their questions answered or won't come to that meeting with misconceptions, in particular about the parking of recreational vehicles where they carry.
Thanks.
Like, I just think we're going to save ourselves potentially a lot of headaches if before that public meeting, if we have that published.
Thanks. So to Wendy or Rebecca, whoever's you're good. So
thank you, through the chair. So on our website, there's a webpage, twpec.ca/zoning-bylaw-review. On that webpage, there is an FAQ sheet. There's a sheet with some, just highlighting some changes in the new zoning bylaw compared to the old zoning bylaw. You'd also find a chart because some of the names of our zone categories changed. We wanted to help residents through their review. Novatech also helped to prepare some information sheets on some of the topics that we thought residents might need some help through, like the second dwelling units and hobby farms and things like that. So we've put some additional information on the website already. If it's not easy to find, then like I say, I welcome feedback on that. Where else to put our house share.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay, so I'm picking up on Mr. Modler's question. Is there some place where somebody can give me a full and complete explanation of how the zoning bylaw deals with not just the parking of recreational vehicles on residential lots, but the parking and the usage of recreational vehicles on residential lots? Now, the problem that we get in is that the planner doesn't want to be too prescriptive, but the bylaw officer has to enforce it. The point has to be made that unless the zoning bylaw is tight enough to stand up in a courtroom after the bylaw officer issues a charge, then the bylaw is not worth its weight in salt. So the bylaw, the planner keeps saying to me, it's a question of enforcement, and the enforcement officer tells us, I can't make it stand up in court. So why lay the charge? There's the issue. And what exactly is our position? Now, I've had this same question from probably 5 or 6 different people.
Oh, you're lucky.
Yeah, but I've given them answers in writing. And what I've said is that it's not our position, and I hope that this isn't our position, it's not our position that we're attempting to prevent, if you've got an RV parked, maybe it's yours, maybe it's your neighbors, maybe it's your family's, if it's parked in your yard because you just came back from Florida and it's parked there for the summer, and you've got relatives coming for the weekend and they want to use that as extra sleeping quarters, I don't think we have a problem with that. Where we have the problem is people using these as residences, not just for the summer, but beyond the summer. And they're using them for long periods of time. That's where we have the problem. How does the bylaw deal with that? I don't know, but the bylaw officer has to have the power to deal with that. And I don't know that the zoning bylaw as it's written is as yet strong enough to deal with that concept. Because I do know, and I can point to them, and I will be taking pictures of them, of at least 6 trailers that have popped up in the township over the last 3 months, and they're there permanently because they ain't moving. They're set up and they're staying. And that's it happening. And there are 6 of them that I know of. Wow. And there's probably others that I don't know.
I can show you 4 on the same lot.
Beg pardon?
I said I can show you 4 on the same lot, but it doesn't matter, right? So
4 on the same lot. That's precisely what we've got to deal with. Precisely.
we can take that conversation offline, I think, but yeah, sure, fair enough.
Yeah. And I mean, I hope that we as a group understand the problems that can accrue from that if we allow it to continue to get out of hand.
All right, so we are, hold on, we are in the inquiries and notices of motion portion.
Sorry.
I've allowed some leeway, but I
Thank
think with respect to it being 9:30,
32 minutes of leeway.
I don't really want any more leeway. I think we all recognize that there are some issues with the bylaws, but that was the whole idea of getting the bylaws in front of the public, so the public could have their feedback heard, and we could then adjust those draft bylaws to reflect the way that the feedback came back to us as a committee. So I think with everything you're saying is wonderful. We just need that feedback in the open forum.
I know, but I think the point that Mr. Modler is making is that if we can clarify where we are we
Right.
save ourselves a lot of hassle.
Well, and I think that there is, as the development coordinator has indicated, there is a frequently asked question portal, and there is full access to the draft copy of the bylaw with those frequently asked questions and how they relate back to any changes in any zoning that is in the new document. Wendy, is that correct? That's fair?
Through the chair, I think the information you're looking for isn't necessarily in the frequently asked questions document. It is in, I can't think of exactly what it's called on our website, but it's new provisions. And we put a paragraph in there about recreational vehicles and trailers and directed people to which sections of the zoning bylaw to go to find more information.
But Mr. Chairman, the point that the speaker is making, and that I'm trying to make, it's one thing to tell the public, go look here and go look there. It's another thing to say to them, here's the way we're handling it. There's a big difference.
Well, I think we've been clear with the way we're handling it.
No, I haven't. Not clear to me.
I think it's the process that we're following, which is very clear.
Process is good.
Yeah, right. So I think the ongoing discussion is part of that process. The end bylaw will be the culmination of that, but we're still I think several steps away from any being at the end, and we have to get feedback on the way that it's been written so that we can make changes to it.
I don't mind getting feedback on the way that it's been written. What bothers me is getting feedback not on the way that it's written, but on somebody's perception of the way that it's been written, because they didn't take the time to go and look, and we never took the time to feed it to them. And so they come to us all up in arms with both guns blazing, and they're madder than hell at us. And hey, that's not what we're doing at all.
But in fairness, so you're asking then for our township social media to have an ongoing social media debate with those that are spreading disinformation about the way the draft bylaw is written?
No. I'm just saying, clarify it in a one pager or a half a pager, clarify it, give it to me. I'll disseminate it. So will he. Then we take all the wrath out of those people that misunderstand what we're trying to do. Every time somebody comes to me, and there's been I said 5 or 6. Oh, there's been more than that. Yeah. But they come to me madder than hell. I don't see how you guys can do this. This is awful. This is my land. Da 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 da. I say, oh, hang on. That's not what we're trying to do. Here's what we're trying to do. That ends it. They're happy.
I think we've all had those conversations, but where are they getting the information that's leading them to believe that?
Social.
Mr. Chair, it's the wording. It is the wording. It's the wording of the way the proposed wording. They're using 2 legalized words like habitating, and then you have to go look to see what the word, residence means. I think we need it to be, some of it needs to be in a little bit simpler language. I appreciate what Wendy's doing. I think it's great work. And now that she's pointed it to me, I will go look. But to the mayor's point, people are under the assumption, and the assumption is they can't drive their RV and park it in their driveway and have somebody stay overnight. I know that's not the intention, but that the way it is worded by some of the wording, that is the perception that they're getting. So I think we can save a little bit of heartache by answering those questions in advance.
Mr. Martin, but that's true. It is illegal, the way the bylaw is, to have your camper at your house and have someone sleep over. Are we gonna bother? And we're saying no, but it's illegal under the bylaw. The way it is now.
The mayor just said, because it's not a residence.
And you see, that can be the issue, because the planner has to write it in such a word it can be enforced. So maybe that's the only way it can be done.
Can I look to I mean, we're
So,
going down a
cer-
big old
cer-
rabbit hole
certainly,
here
Mr.
again,
Chair,
that we've been down several
I
times,
would
so.
say that this far exceeds
Yeah.
notice of motion.
Yeah.
And this has been more of a discussion item, so I would say that's it for notices of motion, and it's time for question period, which would be, I don't believe there's anybody in public left.
Point it up.
I like that. What is the score?
Steve, wait till adjournment, please. Okay, so that wraps it up, as the CAO said, for inquiries and notices of motion. There is no person still there from the public to go through question period, so there's no item 8, there's no closed session. I need somebody to move.
4 minutes left in a second.
Chris moved, seconded for adjournment, please.
Yes.
Councillor Cameron seconds adjournment, all in favor.
Now, what was the score?